Salutations. All right, I think I am live here. Sorry, I'm running a few minutes late. It's been a busy morning. Um, how's everybody doing? Can everybody hear me? Urso, Tamara, thank you both for being here. I think you're the only two people here. If you can hear me, please let me know. I still suffer from PTSD from when I had did one of these and no one could hear me for over an hour and something. So, all right, Tamara, yes, you can. Thank you. Rhonda, sorry, what's up? Thank you all for coming. Mike Jones, what's up? Thanks for coming. Laura, Ascension of Phoenix, thank you for coming. I think that is, I think that is Susan. I think maybe. What's up, Michelle? What's up? Thank you for coming. I think Jessica might make it too. So I appreciate you all coming to this one. Before I get started, I'll just let people check in a little bit. I'm getting more a feel of how this goes. I'm going to try to limit this one to like 90 minutes, so it won't be one of these 3-hour lives. I'm going to try anyway. And when it comes to this topic, I had a boy, to change. It's awful hot in here, but I'm trying to kind of change in terms of the name. I first called it Dead People. I realized somebody pointed out that could get me in trouble since everybody says unalive on YouTube and all that. So I just renamed it Earthbound Spirits. But I said Dead People because it's not as specific as just Earthbound Spirits. You know, what happens to those of us that do transition and decide to either not come back here or do whatever the other things are. So that's why I kind of want to make it a little bit more nebulous than that. And the reason I really want to do this one is because it was really spurred by three fascinating Earthbound Spirit Release sessions I had. Okay, and they were somewhat recent, and some of them mimic some things I've seen in the past, but this kind of took it to a different level. And I think it's just cool to share that kind of stuff because when it comes to doing the work, you know, I don't make the rules, but I have to observe what the laws are. And the laws that come out continually or repetitively in these regressions and during the work itself. So that, you know, makes things more of a fact and a type of a law and things like that I just have to observe and take notes on, you know, but I think it's worthwhile sharing it because it's important work. And there are others that take it on further. There are others that are doing it. And I think it needs to spread and more of it to the point of where I've been, you know, when it comes to Earthbound Spirit Released and Rescue, I would say the system I use is one I designed on my own. Okay, it was nobody else's thing. And it took a lot of work. It took me years to put it together, a lot of study of different individuals, which we'll talk about in just a minute. But I want to let people check in a little bit. I'm already going too quick, too fast, going too hard, too fast, too quick. Anyway, let's see who else here still. Jessica, what's up? Thanks for coming. You know, I was just saying earlier, thanking her because, you know, this doing live, y'all, is jumping in a jump into the abyss that I never thought I would take. I was content with one is I never wanted to do YouTube. And I don't mind telling y'all the truth is, and y'all that know me personally know that I never really want to come forward. You know, before I had my car accident, I talked like I was one day, like I was going to come forward and share stuff. But that was really just talk. I probably never would have done it, you know, and then the accident pushed me into that situation to where here I am now. So anyway, you know, which is not all bad because I was doing good work, but it wasn't the work the creator wanted me doing. And now I am even more so. So I think that's, you know, important in that way. So I appreciate all y'all that have supported me coming this far because I was one of those brothers that was hiding always. And once I came forward, even then I tried to hold back. I told nobody I was a hypnotist. That's not something I just learned. That's going years back when I learned how to do hypnosis. But I wasn't telling anybody. I knew how to do Earthbound Spirit Release. I had done some, but I wasn't telling anybody. You know what I mean? I was obsessed with being still hidden and not people knowing. It was bad enough that on social media, I became known as this brother who was this contactee. And I tried to stand up, you know, with the currents of the thing that were going on in 2014, early 2014. It was a different social media, different groups that were discussing this stuff. It wasn't the same platforms you're seeing now. That was even before you started hearing a lot of SSP stuff and these other type of experiences. You know what I mean? So that's just things that I always pay attention to. And I didn't just jump into it in 2010, 2012. I was born like this. And as soon as I could start reading, I was reading stuff about what I was trying to figure out what's happening to me. These encounters of seeing these other beings that seem real when I realized it wasn't my imagination. I had a good imagination, but man, not that good. And I think I'm not special. I represent a large part of our population that are contactees. Like I said, 80% of our population is contactees or more. And out of it happens in the astral or dream realm. And that's not the separate things that we think from physical contact, because it's a conscious experience. Anyway, back to the Earthbound thing. I gotta stay on topic, everybody. Roger Blair, what's up? Kathy Collins, what's up? Oh, sorry, I got lost there. Lizzie Girl, what's happening? The girl and her gong, what's happening? What's up? Good to see you here. Thanks for coming. Oh, really good to see you. Yeah, Jane, what's happening? Kathy, Jessica again, right on. Okay, Sue, okay, Sue, thanks for coming. I just want to let people check in a little bit before I get to rambling. Like I mentioned earlier, for y'all just got here, I'm gonna try to. My endeavor is to keep this to 90 minutes and try to go over this stuff. All right. Now, back again. This is about some really interesting Earthbound releases sessions that I had somewhat recently that, I've done. I'm very proud to say, out of a few hundred people, I've done 600, probably over 600 Earthbound crossings now. And I've encountered a lot, and it's good work, and I'm very proud of that. It's odd because I got exposed by Alexis Brooks, and I can't remember how it came up. It was like something like maybe a conversation we were having one-on-one on the phone. And I mentioned Earthbound Spirit Release, and we started talking about that. Next thing I know, one of the shows I was doing with her, she kind of blasted me, put me on Front Street. And then she got me to do this workshop. And since then, I've done another one, and I also done a couple of speeches, conferences, and I did some videos about it. So I'm not going to go over the entire presentation or anything, but I'll pull up a couple of things that I think are relevant, and a few things that are just the basic laws that I've encountered with Earthbound spirits in my work. It's not like that's the only, but I just have to speak from experience on that. And as a medium, I was born a medium. I didn't know that's what it was when I was younger, because, I pick up dead people. And sometimes when I was younger, it was so visual that sometimes they would appear to be almost homeless people, and they weren't. You know what I mean? They were lacking some kind of substance, but I couldn't make the differentiation at first. And then when I was 7, I got attacked by one. It was some type of, sometimes we got to remember those people that are really horrible in life and have so much trauma and hate and abusers or whatever they are, and then they die and they don't cross over, and all that hate and trauma becomes something different. They become something different. Okay, so I encountered something like that, so I wanted to know what was going on a lot, when dealing with that. But I didn't realize it. Something to realize is that every medium is a psychic, but every psychic is not a medium. Boom, straight up. They're two different gifts, all right? And when dealing with the interpretation of that information that comes in, it's a different level of energy and of impact and vibration. It just is. So anyway, so it's something that I was not, especially after I got attacked. And I think that's what happens to a lot of children. I was 7, and, this thing attacked me, and it was in a way like getting a bear hug. And it was a psychic attack also. And, when I think that happens a lot, because we're like a beacon, some of us, to these earthbounds or whatever, or ghosts, or whatever you want to call some of them, and we attract them like moth to flame. Okay. And some of us, they try to scare us so that we won't use our abilities. After that happened to me, I've told the story before, so we'll go deep into it. I was in a basement with my mother and my aunt that they replaced my aunt and uncle were written. And this thing put like a bear hug on me. And I could get in my mind, get out, get out. And, I know now that this thing was trying to join with me, but I was protected. It couldn't. So it was, assaulting me to get out is what it was doing, and so when that was over, I got out. I remember my mother looking at me going, "Are you all right?" Because I was breaking out in sweats. And I said, "Get out of here." And, later I told her, there's something down there in that basement. And she said, that's what my mother, her mother, my grandma said, that's what she said. She wouldn't even go in that house. She stopped at the driveway and asked me, said, "Can't you feel it?" I'm not going in there. So that's it. That's how it started for me. And that's the thing, was traumatizing enough to where I was saying, "Oh God, please take this gift away." "Oh no, please. I don't want to mess with no dead people, man. I'm no Sixth Sense cat." So it tripped me out. But for years I tried to suppress that gift. And then I died in that car accident, and it got even stronger. So that's what I'll say with that. All right. Anyway, um, and I'll talk about my near death experience in a different live, because it goes into some different concepts, just different things that are away from this. Well, not really. It's connected, but it'll make this too long. It's already going too long. Okay. So anyway, the first time that I saw Earthbound Spirit Release was in 1994. Okay, from a actually 95, a very gifted medium who's also a hypnotist. And to this day, I can tell you that woman was probably the strongest medium I think I've met. Oh, she was good, very strong. And this was done, and a friend of mine, Timar, was considerably older at that time, but she was a walk-in, she said. And this walk-in was like a star being from somewhere, and she had all these star being illustrations in her house that she had drawn. It was just incredible. And this lady come to me this meeting was for at Timar's house, and she'd flown this gentleman in. I don't get myself in trouble. Named Randolph Winters, okay, and he's the cat that spent all those years with Billy Myers out there. And he come back over here, and he's just got all this stuff. And he said he had objects from the craft and other things and all these pictures. So somebody took me there to see him, and I wanted to see how much the pictures he had mimicked what I had seen during my experiences. Okay, did they look like those craft? Wanted to know. So after being completely disappointed by what appeared to be sometimes wedding cakes on suspended invisible wires like Christopher Reeve and the space gun and all that stuff, but quite disappointing. Anyway, this this woman took me in the back and started talking to me, and we went through this whole process. Just, I've never been, at that point, I'd never been read like that, and I'm pretty strong, but she was on point, and it was life changing for me. I was pretty young still. So that's that. But during the end of that meeting, she did a couple of Earthbound Spirit releases. And it's a technique I've seen done differently than when I got a little older. I saw another one. But how this led me to something is, and I'm going to bring this up. Here it goes, Jessica. I'm going to start trying to mess with these pictures here. All right. I'm going to give this a try. All right. Hold on. In 2004, all right, I was actually on my way to Topeka to speak at the state building up there about something we were doing concerning juvenile offenders and the JJA, Juvenile Justice Authority thing. Anyway, the gentleman I was going up there with was the director, and I was the administrator, and he was absolutely brilliant. All right, brilliant in terms of I'd worked with many different. I got a degree in psychology, so I worked with many different therapists in the juvenile system. All right, and ones that practiced different types. Even one cat was doing something similar to Gestalt, but I found the best method they were using, and that I studied in school, was cognitive behavioral. Cognitive behavioral seemed to have the best results and the best rapport building with clientele. All right. On the way to this meeting, okay. This individual, John Sanders, I think he still lives. We talked about a year ago. Anyway, he just brilliant, one of the best therapists I've ever seen in that way. And I can say that now because after I got hurt and took 4 TBIs in a car accident, I wound up sitting on the other side of the table, and I had people work with me because I had depression, I had PTSD, and some other things I was dealing with, not to mention the near-death experience, and trying to incorporate that with my current spiritual beliefs, yada, yada, yada. Anyway, back then, we're on this ride, and he was a spiritual cat, and his wife could see. So he's quite interesting. He's a great deal older. He's probably, now he's got to be about 80, late 80s. Anyway, he looks at me, we're driving, he says, "Man, Barry, you need to check out Edith Fiora and Dr. Fiora and check out the work she's done." It's right up your alley. And he always told me, he said, you'd make a really great therapist if you chose to be one. And I was like, okay, if you say so, but that name, and he said, check out her work. So I did. And that was one that was a big changer for me. Oh, here it goes, here it goes. Okay, I'll show you. And this was the book I got that was Dr. Fiora's work, the first one. Okay, and that was 2004. I'd not heard of her before that, and I digested that thing in a couple of days. It's great work. Okay, and she was doing Earthbound Spirit Release and things that she came up on that was somewhat involuntarily, but yet it couldn't be denied. And then she kept working on it and taking it to a higher level. And it's interesting because she was what I guess we could call more a right wing type of psychologist, but nonetheless, she was encountering these dead people during these sessions. And she's not the only one. There's another gentleman that this work led me to. And also Dr. Fiora did some work with Contact. There's another book named Contact, and I'll just show you that. I'm so poor with pulling these pictures up, but I've got a copy of it here, and I'll just show that. There's another one she did concerning contact experiences that were mostly of somewhat a negative manner that she kept coming across during clients during hypnosis sessions and things. So anyway, that's really good work that actually kind of changed the way I had viewed Earthbound Spirit Release. And then I saw another one in 2012, and there's different modalities that can be done. Okay. And a lot of times you have somebody that will use another medium, to do it, all under the hypnosis, but I don't need that as a medium myself. So it's just different ways. So, and something I want to say right now is that getting away from what's right and wrong. We're so stuck on these in these communities and on these associations of who's right and who's wrong, who knows more, who knows yada yada. Getting away from that and dealing with the fact that we're just dealing with consciousness, okay? And what I found when doing this, and when I had done my first one, it was a trip because that's something I felt like I'd done before. And I have to say, and I think Dr. Fiora would agree, that I believe that the earthbound spirit population is just as numerous as the living, okay, if not more so. And they're all over the place, and they're joining with people and these things that are happening, okay? And I'm going to, oh, whoa. Sorry, I messed that one up. I meant to stop the share. Oh, I think I messed that one up, folks. Can you still see the share? Can you see me? Sorry about that. I just messed that one up. I don't know if I stopped the share or not. Hopefully I did. Okay, so I'm gonna try to show you something else very quickly. If I can just get it up here. And what I wanted to talk about is the two types of earthbound spirits. If I can, hopefully. Oh, here we go. Boom. Okay, this should do it. All right, the two types of earthbound spirits. And I could have just said this really, but I think sometimes a visual aid actually helps, in my opinion. All right, the two types, and one is as a medium. All right, I can detect a lot of times a spirit that is outside a person's energy field. Okay, they might be connected to the person, but they're outside the energy field. And normally, a spirit like that, I can ask for survival evidence, and they'll give it to me. Something that if they've got a message for this individual, something they'll tell me that doesn't make me look like an idiot. Okay. That's survival evidence is what that's often called. Okay. So that's a different situation. And sometimes that can be not just a ghost. It could be an angelic or somebody who was crossed over and come back and helps is hanging around the person. Okay. That's a different type of connection there that I'm talking about. So that's an either earthbound spirit or an entity that is on the outside of the biofield. All right. Now going to the others, that is the earthbounds that I'm talking about and work with, all right, are those that exist within the biofield, within the person's aura. Okay. And something I'll show here in a second is that they're normally attached to places of trauma as well. You know, our organs store certain traumas in certain organs. And you start combining that with the way that the earth person, the earthbound died, okay, and it starts making it into a way that they are connected to the person actually, and they're so entwined within the person's biofield and their body, their tissues, that they're super hard to detect. Okay, and when I have like I've crossed over every client I've had. I had one that didn't have anything, any of these earthbounds attached to them, but then it turns out that they ran from me before the session. I didn't realize exactly how serious that would get sometimes on that. So that's the two types. All right. And something else I'm going to show where we're going. We're cooking here. Actually, might be making decent time. Oh my God. Anyway, let's talk about why earthbounds sometimes will not cross. All right, because I've been asked about this, and I can say what I've encountered, especially, and it doesn't deal much different than what Dr. Fiora said or Dr. William Baldwin says. It's about right the same things that I encountered, and it's these certain patterns, you know, that sorry. Here we go. Hopefully, I'm getting better at this. Those of you that have been working with me with this. Um, here we go. Boom. Okay. Why earthbounds do not cross over and join with the living. And these are the ones that I found, the patterns that conform with what Dr. Fiora mentioned, what Dr. William Baldwin mentioned, what Dr. Sersh, what he mentioned, excuse me, also, okay. It's the confusion and the loss of the physical body. And I'm going to tell you folks, a great shock comes with that, much more than what we would think. You know what I mean? And I've heard that time and time again. The shock is the reason why they didn't go into the light or why they didn't transition. Okay, then you've got the trauma stemming from past life events. Okay, and you know, it's not just current events, not just current life problems, but it's also past life. That stuff travels with us. Oh, sorry, sorry about that. But that stuff travels with us through lifetimes. And you know, I've mentioned before in other lives and in other videos and stuff how I've had clients before that they have physical problems in their bodies now because of it had to do with where they died, how they died in their other lifetime. And it's amazing how that trauma goes from one physical body to another through the death process. It's quite interesting. All right. But anyway, that trauma can stop. That can also make up negative identities too, the trauma thing. We'll talk about that separately. All right. But this is something that stop people from crossing over. A big one. I've run into this one a lot. Addiction to property, drugs, alcohol, food, lifestyle, or people. When I've had people love is heavy. You're leaning around people when they're not fully gone, they can still hear you and you say, oh, please don't go. And they won't. They feel that like 1,000 times they normally would. Okay. So that's number 4. I just addressed that immediately. Okay. But that's more common than one would think. All right. So something that we need to practice in our society much more is telling our loved ones to go ahead and cross over when their physical body dies, and to encourage that more of a celebration and to go away, because we have so much more power with our superconscious and a part of us that's a fragment of the creator than we think. And a lot of these people are telling people in these circles that they don't go to light, don't do this and that. Like, we're just so helpless after we actually die. There's a point where we're in that shock and the immediate transition. But after that, we become something different. And there's a certain amount of omnipotent and omnipresent that comes in that state. And you realize how much that, you know, your panoramic life review is your higher self, your superconscious, as I prefer to term it, judging your own self. Okay. So another thing, fear of going to hell. Oh my dear goodness. I've encountered this a lot. Okay. Even to the point of where I've mentioned before that the second or third one of these I had done, I was being told by the client, this earthbound spirit speaking to it saying, I've heard about you and you're bad. I was like, well, why am I bad? Well, because you're going to make me leave. And I was like, well, and they said a couple of times and they told me that I shouldn't work with you. And I'm like, who is they? And they said, well, it's the others that were in the body before you got here. They left when you got here, but they said they'll be back because this person isn't going to do the protections. They will for a day or two, then they'll stop, and then they'll fall, and the people, they're going to come right back, and they're going to cause heck, And they told me if I worked with you, I was going to sit down to the pit. And I'm like, well, what's the pit? And none of them have been able to tell me. They don't know, but it's worse than even the pain that they're in now, not having bodies anymore. Okay, and having to possess others. And that shows you how these inorganic beings, these negatives, have actually implemented our very concepts of religion and heaven and hell, and how they prey on us all the way around. Another way to get, as Jessica says, the loose. Oh, bad Jolly Ranchers. I still got to get you. Let's call it DOR, deadly orgone radiation. Negative psychokinetic energy. Anyway, number 6, all right, unfinished task, not crossing over and using living to complete it. So the thing is that what I'm telling you is that, and I'll show through diagrams earlier, that these earthbounds are so entwined into a person's energy field that they aren't detectable in a medium type of a way, but they express themselves as negative behavior patterns. Okay. So that's a big one right there. And what they start doing, these patterns are things that kept them from crossing over. And they start expressing that in the person who's being occupied life, and they're unaware of it, and it can destroy their life. Okay. Another one, I've encountered this one all the time, a lot. Feeling cheated, missed opportunities, using a person to keep feeling and emotions experiences. I'll give you a quick example of that. A one I did, it's been probably 5 years ago by now, but this one was it was a younger lady who was at one of these Blue Festival deals near where I live, just a little ways, a couple of cities over. But anyway, I guess her and her boyfriend, they're partying real hard, and they got in an argument and on the beach, and she went out and floated out on the raft just to get around and stuff and get away, and she fell asleep out there. And she gets woken up by her friends yelling on the beach over there, trying to help somebody. So she jumps in and swims over there. And when she gets over there, it's her that they're working on. And she can't believe it. She's shocked. And she tells me, she said, and then that light came. That light came, and she said, it was not right though. I was only 19. It wasn't my time yet. So I ran over in the field and squatted down. And after a while, it went away. That's what the Earthbound told me. All right. And then after that, it got real dark and I was lost. And I started seeing light that I thought was some sort of way to do something. It was other people. So she started joining with other people. You understand? Anyway, so that's a big one, number 7, right? Sorry, I'll keep going down here. Sorry, folks. Number 8, generational curses, stored trauma, passed down from ancestors. And we're going to talk about that towards the end of this when I talk about a couple of these really unique sessions I just recently had. Okay. Generational curses, that stuff comes down through our through our ancestors. It's stored trauma, trapped emotions, and it's passed down from our ancestors. So not just do you get some from your own past life that's on you like a cheap suit, but then you get some generational curses from people you don't even know that was screwing up. Ain't that nice? Gee, great. Welcome to Earth, folks. Okay, anyway, that's why I said this is a place of hard knocks, the school of hard knocks. Number 9, thinking the living is a chance for them to reincarnate again. And I've encountered that with some that have that tell me they joined with the client when they're in the incubator room, they will say like, I saw a light and I thought it was maybe my chance to reincarnate. And they didn't even recognize there's another soul there. It's a body. And then when they get in the body, they realize there's something, the reason that this child is in the incubator room, it can't breathe right or whatever. And so they're trying to help. And they're trying to help. And they also thought there's a chance to reincarnation, but there's a certain selfishness that goes in there too. All right. So that is another reason that happens. Not just in the incubator room, but it's a definite reason. All right. Sorry. Excuse me. All right. Number 10, overwhelming negative emotions, hate, sadness, big ones. These emotions, we are beings of feelings. Okay. And I will just say that since we've got 4 parts to ourselves, the spirit, the body, okay, excuse me. The mind, body, spirit, and the negative self. And the negative self gets fractured by trauma. And it's already so much of our energy going into it. And the judgments we make during trauma makes those negative identities. Okay, so when it comes down to dealing with the earthbound spirit release, I often have to make sure, am I dealing with an earthbound spirit release or an earthbound that's possessing the person? Or is it just a negative identity that's being buried by the consciousness, the subconscious buries it and retains it. So that's another one. Okay, number 11, religious beliefs. And again, I've encountered that where I'll ask, I ask a lot of questions. And when you get these earthbounds, they're not the demonic. Most of them, they're like people that are just lost, and they'll be quite chatty. They've been wanting to chat to somebody, and but I'll ask, why didn't you go in the light? Why wouldn't you do crossover and things? And they'll say, well, you don't understand. I was a bad person. I killed a couple of people, or I hurt somebody. I killed someone, or I murdered someone. And I think I'm going to go in that light and I'm going to burn. I think it might be hell for me. And that's not a joke, folks. I've had earthbound spirits tell me that. And I've heard something else too. Why don't you cross over? Somebody told me not to go into the light. Somebody I thought was smart. I hear that a lot. Or I was part of a church that they said never go into the light. That didn't take me long to. You have to be a psychic to figure out about what church that was. So these are things there that I've dealt with, earthbound spirits telling me that they're being tortured because they chose to not go into that light, and they're trapped here joining with other people. Okay, so it's not just me saying this and, this is, Barry feels like this. It's what I've done with the work, and it's the data and the facts. It doesn't matter what I think. That's why I said I just have to observe the laws, okay, and I take note of them. It's not all about me, and only a fool doesn't change their opinion to fit the facts. Change their opinion to fit the facts. A fool changes the facts to fit their opinion. I try not to be too much of a fool these days. Anyway, any and all of these will live to express negative behavior patterns within the possessed. Sorry, I took a little longer than I think it should have. Okay, might as well go over the last one too. That's one of these little PDFs I was going to show you. All right, I think it's better just to get these out of the way now. Here's I'm going to show you just the effects that I've encountered. All right, when it comes to these earthbounds and those people that are possessed by them, and I think that's a word that Dr. Fiore always used was possession, and I think it's somewhat correct. But so often these earthbounds think that they're helping the person, or or making their life better. And I have to really bring out of them how they're influencing the person that's negative. But if you do it, I do it in a cognitive behavioral way that they'll talk. I don't come in like Max von Sydow. Leave, and all that. Do you like when people talk to you like that? They're still people, So it's a certain thing that has to be understood about that, and where demonic exorcism begins and dealing with people dealing with people ends, and demonic possession begins. There is a fine line there, okay? Anyway, sorry, I'm getting distracted, everybody. Okay, that's exactly, these things wind up going forever. My black ass getting distracted. Anyway, Okay, here we go. And these are the ways that I'm kind of able to pinpoint. Again, these are things that I found, and also there are patterns that match Dr. Fiora and also Dr. Baldwin. Okay, they both were seeing the same stuff. And I'm sorry, I look for patterns, folks, especially as as a behavioral cat. Okay, anyway, these are the effects, and depends on degree of possession. Okay, one major one: fatigue and exhaustion, always low power levels. And again, this could also, some of this apply to, of course, the demonic, the darker negative entities and things. But this one, we're relegating this down to just earthbounds, okay? People that didn't cross over. So please give your boy just that small arena. Anyway, fatigue and exhaustion is a big one. Always low power levels, violent and explosive tempers, both sudden and since childhood. But sometimes this stuff will just come up on people. They be blowing up about stuff that they were not before, and it's just odd. It's almost out of nowhere. Okay, mental problems, sudden memory loss or gaps, loss of your natural gifts, the discouragement of your natural gifts. Okay, emotional problems, extreme mood swings, anxiety, phobias, panic attacks. Panic attacks is a big one. I see they give people that a lot. Many mental illness may be connected to the possession. Okay, depending on, because you might be dealing with a person that didn't cross over because they had emotional problems. So those emotional problems and behavior patterns are being transferred to you, and you don't even know it. Okay, you're unaware this person is there. Health problems associated with the ones Earthbound had at the time of death. Somebody that had heart problems, suddenly you're having heart palpitations. You know what I mean? Or somebody that had breathing problems. These are things that'll come out. You'll start having little phobias with and things. So that, or health problems themselves. So that's another one. Addictions. I had one that was I mentioned this before, and it was one of the ones I had done years ago, and it was this one was the individual had told me first, was saying I was trying to trick him because he wasn't going to go in the light. And I said, well, why? He's like, you're not going to stay with the client either. Well, I'm not going to go in the light because in the light I can't get another drink. And they had actually died leaving from the bar was across the street from their house. It's right from across the street from my old high school. And the individual said that it was getting close to last call. They were slammed a few down, and they went over to their house across the street to do a couple of rails. So they had some real killer pure cocaine, almost pure. They did a couple of rails, and they go back over for last call. And walking back over to last call, they felt like some pains in their chest and in their arm, and they fell out and died out there of a heart attack in the middle of the street. But their last thing was another drink, another drink. And that substance abuse thing, it kept him here. Okay. So that's just an example of that. And then where he joined with the client at was in the bar. They came into the bar to watch where I live, the Kansas City Chiefs are pretty big. Okay. At least everyone likes them. I don't care for football because it's connected to traumatic brain injuries and CTE. So I'm not the biggest football fan, But anyway, they went in to see the Chiefs play. It was getting the playoffs or whatever years ago, and the individual said they joined with them at the jukebox. They were putting some money in there to play something, and they jumped them. And they said they were bright. The other people in there were burned out, and it's a little bitty bar like a Cheers. I said, "Oh, you mean you jumped them all in there?" Yeah, pretty much. And they're also drunks, so they don't have all that much energy anymore. And the one that he says more that the others have told me too is that they influence other people to drink. So like, and he says, so she wasn't having a good time because they're social anxiety. So I wanted to show them how to have another drink and show them have a really good time. But boy, they can really put them away. And when I get them so drunk that they black out, I feel the most alive. He said that to me twice. Okay. But it doesn't last like it used to. So that's something that starts diminishing, just like an addiction here in real life, okay, in the physical body. So food for thought on that, folks. Relationship problems, that's a big one. You know how many people can't let stuff go on that, all right? Sexual problem, diminished drive, changed behaviors. All right, it's another one that's a big deal. That is a another example of a type of possession. Okay, talking to yourself and hearing voices. You know, I had mentioned just recently that I did a video over that based on I ran into one of these clients, and the young brother is like 39 now. So he starts showing me his pictures of the grandkids. Oh boy, great. I can tell you that people used to bust out the wallets on me with all the pictures. Now they're just scrolling through the phones. Great. Anyway, he starts telling me because I always wanted to see you again to say thank you. He said you're one of the few people that told me those voices I was hearing I wasn't crazy, and that they were coming from outside of me. And that so and I did a video about that because I just forgotten about how many of those kids I talked to about hearing voices. And a lot of them would always say, you know, like when they stopped taking their meds, well, I stopped taking my meds because the voices said you all are poisoning me. And then you think, well, damn, it's not they're not totally wrong on that, but most of the time they'd be lying, you know, the voices. So that's another. But when I did that video, people start saying, you know, you sound a lot like Jerry Marzinski. I didn't know who that was, and I looked him up, and that cat's way out of my league. He works he worked in the prisons and stuff, so he saw a whole different thing. But I tell you, he saw the same patterns I was seeing, and I think that's really interesting. He's taking it kind of to another level. So that's cool. So anyway, that's just another one. Talking to yourself and hearing voices is oftentimes what these earthbounds will do. Okay, another sign of possession. Sudden hot flashes and night sweats. That happens too. Like almost women that think they're going through menopause when they're not, and they're not even near that point in their life yet. Okay, number 11, major one. Lack of concentration. All right, see that one a lot, and it seemed to come out of nowhere when you didn't have that problem before. Impulsivity, you know, they make it like to where you want to do, what's that old saying? Only fools jump in where angels dare not tread. Impulsivity, an easy way to also bait an Aries. But sorry. Anyway, that's another one though. It's something that's not natural. Possession by the opposite sex can cause marital problems, PMS problems for women. Extreme cases may result in transsexuality and transvestitism. It's not the only reason for that. I want everybody to know that, all right? But when I say this, all right, in a situation where I have, let's say, a male child in the incubator room, and I've encountered this, and you have a female earthbound spirit that jumps them when they're in the incubator room, okay, and it's been with them almost always and has been influencing them. And then that individual grows up thinking that they are a man in a woman's body. I'm not saying that's the only reason for that at all. And I'm not crossing any judgments here, but this is something that needs to be put on the table. Okay, it is a reason this happens sometimes. Like, you know, is that why you get sometimes a Caitlyn Jenner, amongst other things? You know, and like it's even to a point of where when I've done past life regressions, I make sure that it's not the past life regression of an earthbound connected to a person. So I'll do an earthbound spirit release before, maybe even unexpectedly, before I do a past life regression. See, that's knowledge right there. You're not getting other places. Boom. Yeah. Anyway, that's not the only reason. So I don't want anybody getting mad at me, but I'm just saying that needs to be put on the table. All right. One reason that this can happen. All right. And just one of the factors that influences people that is not even fair. All right. So, okay, we're past that part. I think that's everything for that. Thank God. Oh, one more. We'll just do this one real quick. And this is something for you all right? And this is something I have put out in both the workshop and the private one that I did too. But I think it's really worthy of you all seeing. You can just take notes of it and maybe go back and review it and do a score for yourself, all right? Here we go. I'm still slow, y'all, but man, it's a lot better than it was. It's almost like warp tid for what I was doing just 2 weeks ago. Okay, this is a checklist, all right? And you can, you know, kind of score yourself to see if you feel like you have possession, you have earthbounds. I can tell you almost everybody does, but it's a matter of how much are they influencing you. Okay. Why can I not? There you go. Okay. So you can see zero's no problem. One, sometimes occasional, no big problem. Number two, almost always, most of the time, and yes. So two is going to be your more heavier one. And it's the same things we just went over, folks. Low energy level, character shifts or mood swings, inner voices speaking to you, abuse of drugs, including alcohol. And I can't tell you how many times people will come to me and they think there's they're talking to me, and I can see that they're having all these symptoms that it might be earthbound spirit. And often it is, okay, not all the time, folks, but often. It's not always just mental illness. It's influences from other beings that are trying to inhabit our bodies, okay, and live through us. Anyway, sorry, where was I? Number three, inner voices speaking to you. We just talked about that because those voices are dangerous in terms that they sound like our own voice. So they're using our own negative self that gets fragmented to assault us. So they don't have to do a lot. It's like those of you that are good cooks, you know you're not supposed to pour water on a grease fire. It makes it worse. So all they do is pour water on the grease fire that's already boiling within us. And think about it, those voices, they never say nothing good. And sometimes they're encouraging the people to kill themselves, which is weird because they're the energy source for these negative inorganic beings. So they're trying to kill their food source. Anyway, abuse of drugs and alcohol, impulsive behaviors, memory problems, concentration. That's a big one, and it's one that's more subtle that you wouldn't think that's an earthbound doing that, making it to where I can't concentrate all of a sudden. You know, all of a sudden I got this almost ADHD thing. I didn't have it before. Okay, so that's one. Sudden onset of anxiety or depression. That is major because it keeps people trapped here. Any of y'all that have suffered from depression or anxiety, you know what I'm talking about. It's enough to keep people here. Okay, and also something that transfers over as a behavior pattern. Sudden onset of physical problems with no obvious cause, emotional and physical reactions to the topic of spirit possession attachments. Huh, I encountered that one before. You know, when I first started talking about this, I got some emails from people telling me I need to shut my mouth and just talk about aliens and talk about contact experiences. I got told that on a few topics I talked about, but definitely Earthbound Spirit, especially. Or I'm not going to listen to you anymore because you're talking about that Earthbound stuff. So, hey, it is what it is. Anyway, boom. Okay, so we got through that, everybody. All right. Thanks for bearing with me, everybody in the chat. But I think that was important as far as some things to go over. All right. Now, going further into how actually these earthbounds do like join with us, or how the negative inorganic beings join with us, okay, is through trapped emotion often. And I mentioned earlier how how our physical bodies and our organs actually store trauma, and that's where often these individuals, whether it's earthbounds or the demonic, will join with us at. Okay, and so we're here. You go. Boom. So this is one that shows that. Okay, emotional energy centers of the body, and you could look at that and see kind of what traumas are stored in what part of the body. All right. And I've got another chart on here if I find it that is even more detailed than this, almost for the muscle that will hold each trauma and each trapped emotion. So these are places though that the earthbounds will attach. And you know, they recognize us, the fact that they go from generation to generation or from lifetime to lifetime, they have ways to track us energetically. And they see us, and when they see us, they see the places that have attached. You know, so if you have, like, let's say you had earthbound that had an anger problem, so it attaches, you know, down there lower to almost near close to the sex chakras or to the side. You know, you start having pains there, and you don't know why, but it's this thing that's, this earthbound attached to you. So that's just something I wanted to bring up, all right, is how they actually attach to the places of trapped emotion within the human body. The demonic do it, the negatives do it, and also the negatives use that to attack us as well. They go for that stored trauma. And when I say that, I'm saying to the people that are in this chat right now, the few of y'all that give a damn about what I'm saying, you're very powerful, intelligent people, and you probably know how to protect yourself. So if you do, what they do is they start bombarding you like your shields from all these different angles. Your financial, your car, your people tripping at work, that petty tyrant, your spouse messing with you, and just all these different ways they poke at you to collapse your shields just enough to create these little cracks. And then when you get the cracks, they go boom for the heart center. Okay, that's kind of how that goes, but that's one of their attack strategies that I've talked about before that is always, I think, worthy. Boom. Okay. All right, where are we at on this, folks? Okay, I'm trying to cook through this. All right. That's the first part. My God, I did it. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is go over this second part, and this is maybe a little lighter, okay? And then I'm gonna get to the chat and to see what everybody has to say and what everybody's talking about, okay? I think I'm gonna make the time limit here. So let me get some beverage here. What I want to do is I want to go over a couple of these very unique sessions that I've had and some things that I've seen now. And I try to always, like I said, I don't make the rules, I don't make the laws or the facts, but I can just record them and try to have an understanding for it. Oh, wow. Looks like there's a few people in chat. I didn't even look over there. Oh, wow. Thank you all for being here. Oh, wow. It's a decent chat going on here. Sorry, I didn't look. You can always see us. Okay, thanks. Send me through that. Oh, okay. Somebody asked about the other book I was talking about. I'll show it. Sorry, I should have. Sorry, I just forgot. Okay. In fact, let's just hit a couple of them here real quick, folks. I appreciate you all staying with me here, so I haven't hopefully lost anybody yet for my slowness, but I'm getting faster, so that is just a miracle that you have no idea. Okay, concerning trapped emotion again. Just another chart that's really good I want to show. Here's another one, okay? Trapped emotions, shoulder tension, they'll jump on that a lot. The neck tension, the upper back, the middle back, the low back, the stomach. And when dealing with earthbound spirits, if they didn't cross over for reasons that you see listed there, there's a good chance that they'll join that part of your body if you're holding stored trapped emotions there. All right. So just to bring that up real quick, and everybody take a look at that real quick, and I'll pull that off. But I thought it's important to show. Okay, concerning the other books that I mentioned, let me see here. Show one from I showed one from Dr. Fiora, and this one is Dr. Baldwin. He actually wrote a few books that are really good, each one of them. But I'll just show this one just so you get an idea of what I'm talking about. Hold on, let me get that one to come up. Hold on, sorry, folks. Let me try again here. There we go. I should do it. There it is. All right, that's one by Dr. Baldwin, and he just had done several sessions. He wrote several books over it, as Dr. Fiora did. And those are just the two of the strongest ones, I think. So that's William J. Baldwin. Good work he's done in the field concerning this. And there's another individual. One more book I'll show you. That's just worthy. Like I said, and this is again food for thought. And I will tell you why I found this one interesting is because they were actually kind of putting it up with against the DSM-5 and some things that are not diagnosed probably appropriately and that they're just throwing drugs at right now. This book too. Michael Sersh. It's pretty good too. And when I looked through that one, he had again finding this stuff accidentally. When you're dealing with hypnosis and dealing with things that are people's traumas, you have these demon things that start coming out. So it's very real, and it's trying to be ignored by, I think, psychology and the whole part of the spiritual connection that this has with psychology and psychiatry. Instead, they're just throwing drugs at stuff. So I'll just bring that to your attention. I think that's really most of the stuff that I wanted to actually show you. Just one more. And this is just what this is just another chart that's showing again the problems of the body and where these things are shared or are stored, excuse me. Oh, it's not that one. Oh, sorry. Pain, emotion. There you go. So it's similar to the other one that you saw, but it's just another place that, we store our own trauma. So let alone that's really induced to us. So yeah, welcome to planet Earth, folks. That's about all I can say concerning that. Anyway, so it's a pain emotional chart. And this also goes to the scales that actually probably seen the scales that are actually emotional charts that actually are similar on the pyramid chart almost, or scaling down. So anyway, okay, so that's that. Now let's go to this unique regressions I've done, all right? And we'll wrap this up. I'll talk to some people and we'll wrap it up. Okay, so one would be in this situation, the client had picked up this Earthbound when they were touring Gettysburg, when they're about 6 years old, okay? And the Earthbound spirit tells me that it recognized the client when they came to tour as being part of their regiment and one of the people that they got killed. And to that point, even more, when I start asking why this being didn't cross over, it starts saying because it got its regiment killed and him get his regiment killed. And also, I think he's saying it was a blue coat, I believe it was. And it was that they couldn't cross over. Only a couple of them were able to cross over from the battlefield, but the others were still there fighting, even though they're disincarnate. And this Earthbound started kind of quoting to me what almost sounded like what in science fiction they call a chronic hysteresis, or a type of a time loop. All right. And during this that they're still there fighting on that field. He said again and again and again, like they're caught in that. And I think it also has something to do with the blood that's on the land itself. So I mean, it takes us to a whole nother level. We want to talk about psychokinetic or I'm sorry, morphogenic fields and morphogenetic fields when it comes to battlefields and how it stops some people from crossing over. This Earthbound was very specific. It said, because he's saying, I saw the light, but I couldn't just leave them there. And some of us crossed over. They saw it and they crossed over. But the others are still there stuck fighting. And I can't leave until that stops. So they've been trapped this whole time. And then when I asked them, okay, how have you been influencing the client? And then they were quite clearly telling me, well, I've made sure they never forgot. They're not going to forget that fight, that battle. They're not going to forget any of that. And so I've pushed them to go back and visit and tour Gettysburg all the time, frequently, and then also to take an obsession with other battles and other battlefields. That's how I've been always pushing this client, how I've been influencing them. And, when you start going through this and, the client and stuff, although the mind and the spirit is on point, but the client, you start seeing tears and things coming because this is stuff they've been affecting their life. And when it's over, I've had a lot of people tell me, so my God, that person was right here with me the whole time. Yeah, they've been there. You know what I mean? But it's like they were there before you found out. You just didn't know. They were just influencing you and changing your life and sometimes ruining it. So anyway, so that's this situation here with that, this Gettysburg thing. All right. And it really kind of, it blew me away because the individual, I believe that's the one too that had had others attached that when they had incarnated again, that this Earthbound had jumped them several incarnations. All right. And so, that I've encountered that before. An Earthbound that's ruining somebody's life because they're saying, well, they look like they looked before. They look before in their other body, and they recognize the energy when somebody comes back. Okay, so I've seen that, and I've seen that happen in a couple of sessions recently, actually more than just that one. But that is always a trip when you have an Earthbound spirit say, well, I wait. And I ask, well, what do you do in between the times that they incarnate? They're not incarnated. They go ruining other people's lives and jump other people and cause all sorts of hectic stuff. So that's a situation like that, just to be aware that they're able to actually trace us through our incarnations here on Earth if they're trapped here. I think that's very interesting and it's noteworthy. I've encountered it more than just once. Okay. Another one would be, in fact, the individual had, that individual, that one of the Earthbounds was one of the like one of the Louis that goes way back there. Not one that was able to trace, but I mean, some type of that situation in France and dealing with all that was describing this type of a plague and other things. It was really a trip when you get those and you get these Earthbounds that have been here for so long and the passage of time is still different for them, to where they don't often realize that the family members that they stayed here for are gone and crossed over and they're kind of lost in that way. So that's the one to bring up. All right. Now, another one that's quite interesting. I'm sure I'm getting all these ones off. I have had two instances that I have actually crossed over Earthbound spirits that were extraterrestrials attached to some people. I've had twice now that's happened. And if it comes down, like I said, this is the Earthbound spirit deal. So if I come across a demonic or one of those negatives, I'll just get rid of them. I'm not there to do the battle and try to act like I'm this great exorcist. I just get rid of them. And really, it's the client that does it. I guide it, but it's the client that does that through their intent of will. And something I want to emphasize to you all when dealing with these different protections, and everybody's got these all different ways. Okay. So I won't even go deep into that. But the main trick of it is how do we focus and project our intent of will. Okay. And the way that we do that, one of the ways to trigger and focus and project our intent of will is through our imagination. Through our imagination. Even when dealing with the dissolvement of negative identities, I use images because people don't tell how really the brain communicates with the soul through images and through the spirit with images. Thus, imagination. And it's not emphasized enough, unless you're really an artist or somebody, how powerful the imagination is, how powerful it is when connected to our creative visualization, when triggering the intent of will to get those things off of you. That is important. Okay, now going forward. All right, this deal with this. Okay, I'll go with the one that was probably the most interesting first. Okay, this Earthbound attached to this person was a mantid. It was a type of a mantid being. Okay, and when I go into detail, I ask a lot of questions. And it's not one that the client has ever seen represented in any drawings. This being said, they look different. Okay. And what was really a trip about this is I'm saying, and this is what it said, that it kept saying, my races are very advanced in terms of, but we're completely benevolent. We're benevolent, but we've got big teeth. We're warriors. Don't mess with us. But it kept saying that again to where I feel that's one of the things that got it kind of hung up. Okay. Because saying, but we're benevolent. We're on a benevolent mission. And then it said that the reason how it got trapped here was its craft got blasted by reptilians, is what it said. But then it starts going into detail, and this is where it gets interesting for me. Okay, I pick stuff up. It figures that something like this would happen to me because I start picking up telethought from this thing along with what I'm getting from the client too. Okay, and I'm seeing, and it's talking about how they're on a mission here, a peaceful one, to help us incorporated into like really becoming a civilization as part of space. And what they were here, it's a conscious mission, and they were here telepathically in contact with humans. And it described being at a place where the ship, where all these mantid beings are in this type of stasis, like maybe not stasis chambers, but like, I don't know, but they're all in stasis together, but they're communicating with people. And it's a whole contact deal. And at some point where they're in this stasis, they were slightly vulnerable to however it was these reptilians attacked them with some type of a sound technology and something else, ultrasonic. What was it? Oh gosh, I'm sorry, I can't remember now. But it was a type of a technology they attacked them for and attacked them with that actually crashed their craft and killed most everybody on board. But this one that went up being Earthbound and one other. It says my other crew member died not long after the accident, but I didn't. And then humans found us, and they were so rough that I died. As soon as they started moving me around, doing whatever they were doing, poking me, I died not long after. But it was upset. It was upset about the fact saying our technology was superior to what those reptilians had. They just kind of caught us with our pants down. Okay, and this was very coming through clearly. And then so I asked, well, what is the spirituality like on your planet, in your society? I didn't ask religion as much as spirituality. And you know the answer I got? It's a lot like yours in terms of we believe in the prime creator, prime source. And in that way, we're not different, but our civilization is not like yours. Your spirituality is so chaotic and so messed up and diversive. So for us, it's all one way. And we all attain that. We're great, very peaceful, and we have great advancement. But, when it starts describing the type of spirituality and the organization of their society, it does sound somewhat insect-like, colony-like, almost hive-like in a certain degree. You know what I mean? Saying that everybody was just going that way, there was no diversion, but it was the way of a higher level. And so it was just fascinating to me, but I could see what it was saying. But it kept saying how disorganized our society was, and especially our spirituality and all that's just completely disorganized. And it makes sense why an insectoid would say something like that. And it's not what I would expected to get from this thing. So the first thing to helping it to cross over is understanding what is its concept of the creator of God. And that's how I helped and got it to cross. It was very interesting though. It was fascinating. Just that very concept and stuff like that you can't just make up. All right. So that's one of those crash craft that happened somewhere on this planet. Clifford Stone or whoever, Robert Dean, I don't know, but somebody saw that and somebody got those beings, those bodies, and it was not good. And that being was upset and not crossing over because it was upset with the reptilians. It was upset with the way it was handled and the way the crew members' bodies was handled, everything afterwards, and kind of tortured, almost torturous in terms of the way they were, dissected and things and analyzed. So, it's understandable. And I think it also says something about, how when getting trapped in the energy fields of this planet, this atmosphere, and they get out of those craft that they're being secured in, that's more of their environment, more of their magnetic field containments for where they're from, the more problems there are when they get blasted out of something like that. So it was interesting. The other one is I had another extraterrestrial that had said similar, that it was here, but it wasn't a mantid. It sounded to me like more of the Ebians, as they're called, but it described being part of a craft that was brought down, and then they all were taken out and tortured by people and tortured to death. And for that reason, that being had not crossed over because it hated people and the shock of being here and dying here again. So situation there. That one got that one crossed over too. I mean, it wasn't as interesting as the mantid's description of like what it thought concerned spirituality, but this being was saying something similar too, but it was talking like it was, superior to us in terms of spirituality. When I know that's not true, or it wouldn't have been trapped here. Okay. It's just that simple, so things happen. It's like pilot error, and you don't expect that, and shocks even gets some of these other species. But I just thought you'd find that really interesting. So, the one that just, because I've done a lot of these, but those are the first two that I had actually a star being attached. And the way that they were attached wasn't a way to, like a demon was to these people. Okay. And when I'm getting information coming through seeing telethought, it wasn't aggressive like that either. Okay. So it wasn't trying to join with me or anything, but I just picked that up, and it figures that I'd be the one person starting to do that because I've been having all these contacts all my life. It's crazy. I didn't think that would come up, but it did. And I think it's worthy of relaying to you. All right. So we start dealing with these crashed spaceships. We don't know what happens to those that are in those craft. And I think this takes us a little over to Preston Dennett and what he says about, he's often wondered about the connection between UFOs seen over cemeteries. So we start dealing with earthbound birth extraterrestrials and people, and those that might recognize us on the soul life memory. Doesn't matter which body we had, they've known us always, like some of these craft. That has a lot to do with this summit. Maybe it's not all necromancy and just grabbing clone bodies and zombie. It might be something else going on spiritually to some degree. We have to weigh both out. Okay. One other thing I'm going to bring up, and I'll look into the chat. All right. Appreciate everybody that stayed with me so far. I actually got through all this. Oh my God, I can't believe it. Live for all chap, like I've been walking through the desert. Okay. Another thing I encountered a while ago was after all the earthbounds were crossed and whatever other work we were doing, I have a procedure too. I also can find out who's in the room that's invisible. And when I do that, there's individuals in the room, 4 of them, that say they're from what the Uranta book here would call the 5th Mansion world, or if we were talking about the Bardo Thodol, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, the 5th Bardo, that, or we can even call it the fifth density or things like that. Okay. But they were kind of describe it as the fifth mansion world. And in this book, Uranta, I think they describe 7 mansion worlds. And these beings were not attached to the client, okay, but they're in there observing, and they're asking them, well, "What are you observing?" They said, "Well, we're observing one. We're a scout mission from where we're from because we're observing love, and we're wanting to know why love goes through all the universes, all the dimensions, and time. It goes through everything. We want to know why." And then they start saying, "We've been watching you, and we've heard you." And it always trips me out when I get that stuff from the other side. They say, "We've been watching you, and we've heard you mention the soul before, and we want to know. We don't know if there is such a thing as the soul. What is the difference between the soul and our spirit bodies?" And their spirit bodies, they sound somewhat omnipotent, somewhat omnipresent, okay? And they say, and they start saying, the being saying, we're real good where we're at. We are good. And what we have and where we're at consciously, how do we know that there's not more, that the soul and the body, the spirit body are not the same thing? We always thought they're the same thing. But the fact that love goes through all time, space, and universes makes us think there might be something more. There must be something more. Now, when I'm hearing this from these beings, but they're saying how good they are, how wonderful that mansion world where they're at are, and how enlightened they are, yada, 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 all that stuff, right? But here's the thing. When they say that, it took me back to the Bardo Thodol, and how the Bardo Thodol talks about at a certain level, when you are getting the positive things that you put out, okay, that starts coming back, that it's enough to bliss you out to where you stop making attainment to the creator, going to the creator. Okay. And the one that I had, it kind of described it as being these gods on this beach it's the most beautiful beach you could ever imagine, with everything being brought to them they could ever want. So what is there? What's the reason to go further? You know what I mean? And they reached that stagnation. And I've compared that before on Jessica's show and some other things with the Q continuum as it was represented in Star Trek Voyager. And that it was one Q was wanting to kill itself, and the reason was that it said it'd been through everything. And when they did part of the trial was in the continuum, but it was just this gas station with, like, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 people standing around it, a dog, and a big road. And dude's telling them, well, the road is the cosmos. It goes forwards and backwards. Time does. Saying the gas station is the continuum, but you notice nobody's saying anything. And they're like, yeah. He said, because everything's been said. Nothing's left to be said. We've all been everywhere, up and down the road. We've all been every type of thing you see here. We've been the dog. We've been the pinball machine. We've been the paper. We've been the people. We've been everything. So there's nothing left to say. So I want to die. And it's just trying to commit suicide. And when dealing with that, that's kind of similar to what the Bardo was saying at certain higher levels, okay? But that sounded very much like what these beings were saying too. And it wasn't a bad thing, but it seemed like they had got kind of so blissed out where they were at that they couldn't see maybe it's more beyond that. Like, it sounds like they was even forgetting there's more mansion worlds or Bardo levels that are higher than that. They done got blissed out at that level 5. And so that scout mission is trying to discover more of love and how it permeates everything, to see how it connects to the soul itself beyond the amazing awareness and energy that we have with the spirit bodies itself. So it shows a little bit about these different levels. I think that Jock Doubleday, I just did a real cool interview with him yesterday. It'll probably be posted soon. And him and Jessica did one where they're talking about the ether. And he said he's done a lot of work on the ether. So we're dealing with different levels within the ether. You know what I mean? Almost the layers of the onions of, like, Earth is. You want to talk about that dimensionally, how the frequencies and vibrations are like the layers of an onion here on Earth. And you have just a frequent away from us, you have an entire different civilization. So we think that all these things are always coming from outer space. They're not coming from right here. And that book, Earth, the Only Choice of Planet, represented that really good. The Council of Nine from the Zone of Coal. And it was kind of cool because when I did some work with Jock, regression, and his place that I talked about this, a place of translation, reconfiguration, that's in between lives, where we do that kind of panoramic life review. His was within the cold of zone. That's what he was saying. And I'll tell you, he's cool as heck, but I don't think that cat ever read that book. He had no idea what the Council of Nine was in the zone of cold. So he didn't use Council of Nine, but he was in the zone of cold doing basically that translation between lives. So, it's all types. And I told him, I said, there's a type of being in here in this Urantia book called our starry association, our starry associates. And they talk about these beings, these life forms that come from out time, the space-time continuum and universal. We start dealing with the other universes that are around this one. They talk about 7 super universes in that book, but they're saying outside of that, which makes the grand universe, these 7 super universes, outside of that are these other space domains being created. And what I see, and I think it's a part of actually the second law of thermodynamics, although the universe is not a closed system, as it expands, one of those ways is by using entropy and wormholes into other universes, or making another universe. I've always believed that, and nothing's happened to the experiences to tell me anything different. Okay, folks, that's all I had for that. So now I'm going to go to the chat here, and I hope you all enjoyed that, and I didn't get too weird or wasn't too long. It's apparently only been like an hour and a half, so I'm not doing too bad. I'm not bad. I'm going up a little bit to see. Oh wow, I'm way behind, folks. I'm only at 2:45. Oh my gosh. Tennessee, Kentucky, Bigfoot. Thanks for coming. Tamara's still here. Thank you. Oh, it's 2:49. I'm way behind. Sovereignty 2929. Thank you for coming. I was tormented by entities during the night for years, and my room was in a basement. It was traumatic. Yeah, they'll come in on basement. It's interesting because it's a lot close to the earth down there. They can use the earth and kind of manifest through, and also closets too. Not just the demonic, but ghosts will use closets too. Think about how often children say, well, they experienced these beings, and it was in the closet. It came out of the closet. My friend's in the closet, and that's because within the closet, something starts being produced, the free energy of, it's almost like an orgone accumulator within the closet, but really it starts generating that 0 point energy, like the Casimir effect. The Casimir effects happens within those closets almost in the same way the orgone accumulator does. So you just get that free energy starts bouncing to and from, and then they start using that to be able to manifest. The spirits do. So they come out of the closet a lot, or they hang out in the closets of a house, especially a really well-insulated house that is like an orgone accumulator in that way. Food for thought, okay? I'm sorry you went through that, Sovereignty. Jessica McCreary, hey, thank you for coming. Greetings. Maureen is here. Welcome, Maureen. Said Jessica just said hello to her in there. What's up, Jessica? Thanks for the deal. Thanks, Gorilla Gong. Thank you. 2:52. Hopefully I kept it up. It was over an hour ago. Hopefully I didn't lose too many people. We see you. Thank you. Thank you. I forgot to even look over. I got so carried away. The Unquiet Dead book. Thank you, Jessica, for putting that up. We could see only you. Okay, cool. I thought I almost messed that one up. Thank God. This sounds like ghosts. Ghosts and earthbounds are slightly different. You know what I mean? To a way. When I say earthbounds, to me, if you were listening, Jay Truth, when I was actually speaking earlier, you might want to go back and check it out. I went through the difference between earthbound spirits on the inside of the energy field and outside. Normally, ghosts are on the outside of the energy field. They're not the ones on the inside. These earthbounds I'm talking about are inside, and they're actually living through other people through negative behavior patterns. Ghosts often haunt locations, and sometimes people, but it's more a location thing. So the earthbounds I'm talking about are ones that are inside the energy field, and they can't be detected by a medium on the outside. in that way. So you don't know they're there. And I can't begin to tell you all. And look, I'm not putting down anybody's stuff. Like I said, this is not about right or wrong. But I've had a lot of people come to me and say, oh, I've done my protection, so I don't, I don't have anything attached to me, or I get this one. I've done my shadow work, Barry, so I know I'm clean. Okay. And then I might, unannounced during the session, do an EB release on them because I know they've got them. And sure enough, they've got 4 or 5 on them. And we get done and they're emerged. They're looking at me. Sorry, what you're doing didn't work. And you weren't able to detect them. And it's all right. There's no right or wrong on that. Because me as a medium, okay, I'm sitting there, and since I can't, it's now on the outside of the energy field, I can't detect it. Does that make it mean that I'm just wrong? No, it's just that it's a different deal, a different law going on there. They're so inside of the person's energy field and attached from that point of trauma, you can't detect it. Just how it is, unless they're separating a little, or you have to be able to isolate the behaviors that are common to earthbounds that they express through other people. That's the real work, okay, folks? That's why I'm bringing this up. I know the other people that are doing it, other people take it further. I created my own system. I got leery because I had at a point where I have a lot of people want to do sessions with me, and they're all hypnotists. And I started realizing some of them were just trying to figure out what my system is and how I do it. Okay, so I got leery at a certain point. But now Creator and Spirit's telling me you need to actually do a training on this and train some people to do it. I might do that one day, but it will take a while, and it will be an on-taking. It'll be a good on-taking. Not yet, but I might do that one day. So this is food for thought. I don't know. I get concerned because I deal with some people that have worked with some people, and then they tell me I worked this person, I wasn't feeling good after. I think I got attachments. And that's because a lot of us are working on people we've not worked on ourselves. You know what I mean? That's a deal there. Sadly, I had no choice when I got TBIs. I was forced to do that forever. So, that's just making no right or wrong. But I think we all need to be aware we're just people. We can make flaws. We're not perfect. And it's not about being perfect and being right all the time. This is about taking things forward, taking this consciously forward, getting it to where there are not so many earthbounds trapped on this planet, getting it to where we have a different rituals for our death process that helps our loved ones to cross over. So food for thought on that. Jonaside, what's happening? Wow. Urso, what's up? Thank you for coming. In fact, you were the first people here. I hope I acknowledged that earlier. Thank you for that. Okay, concerning that, when it goes to the soul traps, okay, and I'm gonna tell y'all again, all right, I've done a bunch of these now, and I have yet to encounter that, all right, and it's not definitely standard like we're being told media-wise. Now, what I have encountered is this: their ability to track somebody as you incarnate in, and their ability to see who your parents are going to be before you incarnate, and then start influencing your earth parents and controlling them before you incarnate. So in that way, they can track that before lifetime to lifetime. But it's interesting, each time I've encountered any of this false light type of stuff, or any of these traps or abduction connected to that soul fraction, any of that stuff, it all happens once we incarnate into the physical bodies. Okay, and we're outside of that, our superconscious, whatever you want to call it, the divine over self, all these different words. This book calls it the thought adjuster, which I know why, but that part of us that is still with the Creator, okay, that actually is positive and actually takes a total record of everything, more than even the Akashic records of everything we've ever done in all of our incarnations. Okay, that cannot be influenced and it cannot be trapped. That I speak from experience. I know that from my own NDE and from working with other people. And when the day comes that I find that's not true, I will tell you all. Oh my God, I encountered it. One of these soul traps that was so powerful, it got this person. It trapped the superconscious. I will tell you. But right now, where that goes, there's a certain amount. If that stuff is happening at the superconscious level, there's some sort of a conformity. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. I tried, and I mean, I've tried during these sessions. I've asked people all the time, "Are you being forced to reincarnate? Are you being forced to do this, especially doing the regressions? There's 3 different good modalities of past life regressions I like. Okay, one is informational, is just good. Another good one is live between lives. All right, but when that happens, you deal with that. I ask, is the light making you incarnate somewhere? No. Is God making you do it? No. Well, how about your guide? Are they trying to tell you what to do? Are they making you? No. They always say the same thing. It's my choice. It is my choice. And I see individuals in these circles try to diminish that with zero proof. Okay, did you have a near death and this happened to you during your near death experience? And how do you know a lot of that wasn't neuroprogramming when we have all this technology in us? Did you get a scan? Just asking, okay? The next thing, are you a medium? Can you communicate with the dead? Are you in communication with that side? And I get very cautious. Some of these individuals you and I see that are saying they're having all this contact with extraterrestrials, they're getting all this information and yada, yada, all this stuff is happening. But when you really start testing them or talking even around, you see they're not even mediums. Okay, when they're not mediums, how are they getting that type of telepathy with the, I'm just asking, okay? It brings up questions. And you get around these people and they don't have that energy like their contactees. Whether you like me or not, you get around me, you're gonna feel there's something different about me. Or as people say, you know, you feel weird, something weird about that cat. You know, it's that Artron energy thing. I carry it. And I meet a lot of y'all that do. That's what's cool about those conferences. A lot of people be there that has it. And it's the people that come up and telling me that, oh, I'm not like you. I haven't had encounters like you. And they've got that Artron energy all over them. They're just unaware because that type of contact happens so subtle sometimes. Before the era of drones, you see something out there and it's dancing around a ship and you say, oh my God, look at that. And you watch it for a second, you're just amazed. And maybe one other person sees it. There's like 5 people standing there. They're all going, where? You're like, it's right there. It's right there. And they don't see it. You see, it's hard to imagine that it's a controlled type of contact. Well, let's say you have an entire of, what is it, Star Trek? The Federation of planets. You've got a whole Federation, Starfleet, that stops everything they're doing to collectively just contact you only. That's exactly what's happening. And it's heavy, okay? But it happens on a level that is so quick, so fast, that it makes retention of memory after it happens difficult, okay? And that's just without being mind wiped and all that other stuff. It's just a natural effect of dealing with beings that have a faster vibration than us. Or people use the word frequency, I think, incorrectly a lot. Maybe the vibration's a different, better word. So I think it's a speed thing, honestly. You know, anyway, and that's just so it's a natural effect of that. But it's stuff like that that needs to be taken into atonement. And the fact that not all of us are suffering from neuroprogramming or hive mind. There are different types of us that are contactees. And I'm trying to bring all that together so we can get a total narrative. How they're trying to control us as we become a type 1 civilization. What has changed about the contact scenario and about the information being gotten from contact since the 60s, the 70s, even the 80s. It's important, you know what I mean? Because it brings a certain of authenticity that we might not have now. Anyway, let me go on down the thing here. Oh, good conversation. Courtney Brown said not to go into light because it's a trap. You know what? I'm going to bring this up again, okay? Sorry, I don't give a damn what Courtney Brown said, okay? Who is he and how is he protected? He's intelligent enough to know that remote viewers are being influenced. Look, I like seeing the sisters in the cat suits too. I enjoyed that. But look, bad information is bad information. Okay, and number 2, like that's why I gave, and Jessica Jones is my friend, okay, but I did do something. I gave her one of the blind targets was the light. And I wanted to see, clearly, did she get a soul trap of any type? Is everything I've experienced with all this work when I died as a medium, is everything I've experienced just wrong and I'm being conned somehow? or is it bullshit we're hearing? Okay, and you know what? She didn't get a soul trap on any of that. None of that. She got galactic stuff, universal stuff, but it wasn't no soul trap. Why not? See, that's disinformation. The light is just a communication path. It's not like it's just it's everything. You go into it, but see what happens when we go into the light. I can say this, okay? I can say this. I have had one of these sessions that this individual had about 12 earthbounds on them. I was able to do them on one session. I could do about 14 of them, maybe 16. I start getting tired. But this person had up about 12, and I was able to get them all. And several of them were their own family members that were older that had joined with them. They're like a bright light, and they joined with them when they died. Okay, and by the time like I got the first 3, and around the time I got to about the first 6, about the 5th or 6th, and crossed them over, they're seeing the first, second, and third that I crossed over on the other side of the portal there. And they've got light around them. They've got bodies. Some of them even have what almost we could conceive of wings. I know that's part of our way of thinking about angelics and stuff, but I think it's an energy friction thing from the beings I saw when I died. Okay. Anyway, so what happens? Our time is not the same over there. Before I can get these other crossed, you've got these other ones saying, come with us, with the other loved ones. And they were all helping each other cross. It was amazing. Look, that's just the way it went down, not because I wanted it to. So I don't care what Courtney Brown says. That happens over there, and these false light things, and I've heard about that. There's a false light that brings the soul to the machine that traps it, and then it cycles it into a clone body. Going a step further, I've had a regression that I call the soul fracturing regression. And that was an interesting where it was giving the individual night terrors where they were trying to keep the physical body and the dream body, energy body away from the physical body. And they were seeing how far they could get it away before natural self-preservation snapped it back, all of it. Okay, and then they were trying to fracture the soul, the spirit, so they could put little pieces of it in these clone bodies in different dimensions. But they weren't able to do that. Okay. And I've mentioned before that I thought that was a negative experience, negative regression. When I get over, I asked them, I say, hey, do you think that was a negative? Do you consider that negative? They were like, no. I said, no. And they said, no, because they're trying to learn how to love like we do. They said they can love, but they love like animals on this planet do. They're capable of love, but it's not like us. It's not the same intensity. It's not the same strength. They want their whole species to love like us. That caught me off guard. And the next thing they say is, and also they want to know, why is it when we die, we go almost directly back to the creator and they don't? That's what this individual said. And that immediately puts it in level like, man, how much we're not told how strong and how much we are as humans, because we live in this concocted world that's run by demonic. But the truth is, we're bad MFs. That's the real truth. And when it says that we're made in God's image, that means as immortal souls and as true energy beings. Okay, that's what that means. And it means the creative principle passes through us. That means we have the creative capability. That's why I emphasize imagination so much and creative visualization. Look at all this stuff, man. All these planets, all these galaxies, universes, down to the cellular. Are you kidding me? Down to what I've talked about, the ISIS thesis and the lambda, the lambda phage bacteria that can be activated that the pharaohs are trying to do to actually help you keep your life memories during the death process. That's something else. Is Courtney Brown telling you about that? How are they telling you how to survive this stuff? Okay. What is it? I've done videos about this. I'm sorry. I mean, I don't care. I don't care if these people don't like me or come after me. I've met some of those people. I did a deal with one of them. I did one of the remote viewing shops with one of those people, and it was good. Okay. So I'm not throwing any hate. Like I said, but man, bad advice is bad advice. I need to come off more than just, there are a couple of remote viewers that saw it. When we know if we've got entities And I've talked about this on Jessica's show, entities that give us not just voices, but give us our religion. And do you think with remote viewing being the way that obviously is something used in the cosmos by higher species, galactic wise, you think there's not a council of some sort of negative inorganic beings constantly trying to influence the remote viewing thing that's going on here? Of course. And what are they doing to know that it's not being influenced by them to give out information like that? And straight up, what they're giving out saying, don't go into light, causes more earthbound spirits and more work for me. Why do I have earthbounds telling me that got them stuck here? Why? It's a procedure I do. It's not, hey, did this and that happen? I just ask and they'll tell you. Well, I heard these people were telling them don't go in the light, so I thought it might be a trick. And then they get stuck here. And then they're in darkness, joining with other people, ruining other people's life. That is hurting people. That's why I speak against it. It is hurting people. And they can't support anything. When I ask you, how do you survive your life memories then? To where it's not something like where you lose memory, or like I mentioned in a video I did. Oh no. Y'all that watched it, another video I had done, I talked about this book from Ray Hernandez here, all right, and the CCRI former free, Mind of God, okay? And what they were saying was that there's a repository when we die, we go back to that takes our life memories from this life. And then we get cleaned out. We get sent back for the next incarnation cleaned out. And I wondered if maybe the place of reconfiguration and translation was what did that, okay? And how much of it is the fact we're immortal souls that have to learn and wipe ourselves clean to a degree. This is also similar to Carlos Castaneda and in the Eagles, the book, The Eagle's Gift, I believe it is, or it might be Tales of Power. He talks about the eagle and how the Toltecs and Don Juan told him that the universe itself was shaped like an eagle. And when we die, we go in through the beak. And the beak is what eats our life memories. And we go and wipes us clean in that way. So that's the same thing he's calling the mind of God. So what way is Courtney Brown giving you to survive that? Okay, so straight up, I'm telling you two ways. One is the way of the recapitulation. I've done videos over this, which is a system of breathing from left to right while reliving all your life memories and reconstructing them, molecule for molecule, all the energy you left in there, doing the breathing, taking that energy back to you, okay? From right to left, which is physical, material, awareness, energy level, back to the left side, which is where dream, where death and all these other higher functions are existing over there. Okay, that's a system for that to help you. And then when this repository comes, the mind of God, the beak of the eagle, it takes that recapitulation. It takes the recap and leaves your soul memory intact. And that's when you start going into that clause in death, which is as inorganic beings, as energy beings, we can actually mold our energy being to whatever we want it to be. It's infinitesimal. Do you want to be a star, an aware star? You want to have another physical incarnation somewhere else? You want to be an aquatic? Do you want to be a planet? That's what you start getting into. Do you want to be what this book calls architectural spheres that are completely aware, made of almost pure light? Okay, just saying, folks. Those are two ways I've given. Another way is the ISIS thesis. Oh, excuse me, folks. ISIS thesis. I've done another live on that, so I'm not going to talk about it much. Check out Judy Kane King's book on that and what she talks about the lambda phage, and how the lambda phage is part of our actual junk DNA, unquote, and how our junk DNA is mostly ancient viral. Okay, and once you start awakening that, and this phage and how it's capable of actually has a light function that it does, that it can actually regenerate other cells and other things to a different level, which will allow us to actually keep life memories, okay, and not lose our life memories during the death process. And I mentioned before, when dealing with the deep biosphere of the Earth, okay, which is where we've got like 98% of the Earth's bacteria undiscovered, and also fungal components too. That's a big one. And this bacteria is actually called microbial dark matter because it's melanated, okay? And it's most of that is unknown. Look that up. It's not just Barry Littleton talking. It's not Barry Littleton being a racist, like let's call the other thing. It's fact. Look it up. Dark microbial matter within our planet. It's a big deal, and it's completely undiscovered. We don't know how to do it. Is there a way with either gamma radiation or with psychokinetic conscious energy to activate the lambda phage or something even stronger within the Earth, within the biosphere, that could cause the regeneration of Earth? Bam, much better than what we're getting now. These are things and concepts that need to be taken forward. Okay, so again, these are two ways of potentially avoiding losing your life memory during the death process that I'm presenting to you. I don't hear these other cats doing that, okay? And I mean, it's one thing just giving this advice, fear mongering and pumping that. Pump the fear. Man, it's time to go move beyond that and to give solutions. And the three criteria I have before I even argue with somebody like Courtney: you have your near-death experience? If you did, tell me everything that happened. Why you went this whole process of stuff that no one, I've done hundreds of these, nobody's done. I'm catching it all. Another one, okay, are you a medium? Can you see? Okay, number three, how much work have you done crossing over earthbound spirits? How do you cross them? Where do you send them? How do you get them there? How do you identify anything? That's keeping it 100. I'm just talking about the ones on the outside of the energy field. Do you even know about the one, the inside the energy field, like I've talked about? That's him and any of these people, okay? They show the proof. They do the work that I'll back down. Until then, F them, man. Sorry, I'm just being real, okay? Because I get tired of all the crap I hear, these people acting like they're these gurus or they're these great teachers, and you get around these people, their energy field is weak. And y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all been around some of these people. You know damn well they can't do none of the stuff that they say. They don't have any of the powers that they say they have, and they don't even have the experiences that they have. They're devoid of Artron energy. They're devoid of light. What's up with that? You know, and they run rampant in what they're calling the community, this association, and the people with the biggest platforms. They be full of shit, straight up. 90% of these people. And I'm nobody. Okay, I'm not a guru. I'm not a counselor anymore, a therapist. None of that stuff. I'm just a brother that has had contact, and I will say I'm a man of knowledge. I present enough information that proves that. Okay, but that goes into the realm of ego. That doesn't matter because this isn't about me. This place is in trouble, folks. Humanity is in trouble. Bad. Look, again, we're back at this thing of nuclear war again. That timeline they're desperate to throw us to. Nuclear war. It's right here again. We're worrying about it right now. Talking about nuclear armory and all this other stuff. That's going the wrong way for this planet. Wrong way for humanity. Now, I've said it before. We're going to get out of here, folks. We've got so many other beings, both multidimensional, extragalactic, extrasolar, that are desperate to take over stewardship of this planet and get a chance to incarnate here into some bodies where you can have the good sex, you can have the good food, and you have the feeling in a way that you can't get when you're not fully physical. So we got to be very careful and take this serious. And hopefully this shift in consciousness is stuff like this. Beautiful people like in my chat, thank you, that are trying to actually give a damn, and one person at a time making a difference. I've brought this up a few times. I got laughed at, but I don't care. I'll bring it up again. The last Star Trek Deep Space Nine, when Renee Auberjonois, that is dead now, Odo, that whole series was actually about him. When you really look at it, okay, he was one of the ones that they sent out, the Great Links send out to get experiences and learn more, almost like a probe being sent out. Then they come back to give that information to the Great Link. But remember, they had such a hard time with people being hunted as changelings that they hated humanity, or solids, as they called it, hated solids. But then Odo got found and went through all this, fell in love with Kira and all that other stuff. They cured him of that plague and everything he had, and all that stuff he went through. And when he joined with that founder after he'd been cured, he completely changed her. Then he went to the Link, and they were supposed to be a golden color, which I always found interesting. in their liquid form. At least in the original DS9, they changed it in Picard. But when the link had turned dark, and then when he goes in, he puts his little suit on, cheesy. But when he goes down into the water, you see he's golden and starts spreading throughout the link, healing the link. I really think that's people like in this audience, people like Jessica, people that are working. It's not even about me. It's just something happening. And I think it's humanity's chance to save itself. That with the new people being born that they're calling star seeds, I know they're just advanced souls from wherever, whatever term we want to use. But they're the ones that are incarnating here that I think help save humanity and the stewardship of this planet. That's why I came forward. I wanted no one to have to go through what I did to look like me, be asking for questions like that. Where are the black ETs? Where are the black contactees? Are there experiences like mine? Are our cultures different? Are our races different? Do we have the same thing? Yeah, we're all human, but what are the similarities? What are the differences? There are going to be some. I wanted to find out, but there's nobody to talk to. So if I come forward and took some arrows, so be it. I hope more come forward, and it's everything. That's what's changing this place. The amount of way we communicate now, the directness of it, stuff not being able to be hidden as much as it was. It's important, I think. So anyway, I'll finish up here and I'm gonna get out. Sorry, I probably shouldn't have went on such a deal. Okay, on my channel, please go back and check out the video. It's called The Mind of God and the Great Eagle. I talked about that in that deal, and I gave up some pictures up there and stuff. But that's just stuff. There's another one, What Happens in the Light, stuff like that. So it's just things that I think are merit more than me just talking and going on. And for y'all like Farsight, I'm sorry, but I don't give a damn what they say, what they think. I don't owe them nothing. They're not changing my life. They're not helping me. Okay, so I don't care. I hate to say it, but folks, I'm not here to be liked. I'm not here to piss everybody off. I'm not here to be liked on any of these platforms. I'm trying to do something because I get too overwhelmed with the fantasy stuff I hear, and then also the negative, all the driving for the negative, the driving for the fear mongering. That stuff burns me out a little bit. You know what I mean? So the platform I stand on is my own. What I think about Farsight or whatever, that's not Jessica, that's me. Okay, she has nothing to do with this. Nobody I work with, this is my viewpoint. This is my platform. And I am a 90s cat. And I will just say, if you don't like it, you suck it. Oh, hell yeah. Suck it. Lorianne, Jamone, welcome. What's happening? Thanks for coming. Sorry, folks, I'm only at 324. I'm pretty much sucking ass again. Lisa Smith, what's happening? Oh, shields up. What's up, Angie? Raven Hayes, greetings. Oh, UK, what's happening? Welcome. You've been following for a while. Thanks for coming again. Wendy, what's happening? Wendy from Australia, what's happening? I love Australia. I had another near-death experience there, and an angel saved my life. A living angel saved my life. Another book that I was going to show you all is this one real quick. Oh, I was going to. Oh, there it is. Boom. Okay, here it comes, folks. Okay, I think here it comes. Uh-oh, maybe not. Hold on. Oh, there it is. Sorry, folks. Okay, this one here, and I might have mentioned this in one of the other lives. This book here, Daniel Brinkley. Okay, speaking of Australia, that's what kind of tricked my mind into that. In 2020, when I got back from Australia, I had about 2 days at home, and I flew to the Life Conscious Expo, do a private showing, and also one with this panel, the people from Ancient Aliens. That was a trip. Anyway, but when I got done during speaking, it's always pretty cool. First, it was like almost 30 people in there, blew me away. But when I got done, a lot of people come up and talk to me, and I try to associate a little bit as I'm breaking down. I was trying to get out of there because the next presenter comes in, and it's this individual. And they come running up to me, and he's like, "Man, I've heard a lot about you. I just had to meet you in person." And they reach their hand out, and he shake his hand. I'm Daniel Brinkley. And I was like, "Well, I know who you are, and it's kind of a trip." But when he shakes my hand, he kind of goes into that little thing where he tries to grab both hands and do a small reading on me or something, and I can always block that, but I just didn't, whatever. And he looks at me, he goes, oh, you died for real, just like me. I was like, yeah, I'm like you. I died. Something weird happened. And he's like, be careful. They're going to try to kill you again. And I said, well, they already did. I just came from that in Australia. And then he's like, man, you're not even trying to make any money on this. I was like, no, I got to that point. And he's like, you should write a book like I did. You'll probably sell 1 million copies, and I'll help you any way I can. And it just shocked me. This man was telling me that. And I was like, man, I've got a copy of your book. As a matter of fact, I said, I remember that movie with Eric Roberts. I said, was that any good? Do you approve of how they did that? He was like, it wasn't exact. It was Hollywood, but it wasn't bad. He said, I was kind of happy with the movie. It wasn't bad. And I had a really good exchange with this individual. Okay. And it just caught me off guard. It's some of those things. And I've been blessed enough to have a little small platform enough where I've got to meet some really cool and interesting people that are real. And, I used to listen to him when he was on Art Bell all the time. And he would, and his story of how when he actually died the first time, that he was floating in this abyss. And he was saying how the light around him was like the knowledge he had and the spiritual experience and things, and it wasn't enough to propel him forward in the abyss. And that's when these crystalline light beings came and got him and took him to what he's describing as these mansion worlds, these huge crystalline palaces that like where people can see where cathedrals come from. He's seen that. My brother Reggie has had astral projections where he's went through some type of a Mako, and he's seen that. In the Uranta book, they describe the first mansion world as being like these crystal palace thing and these palaces. So it's very interesting when you start seeing some of the similarities in the way people perceive things. Anyway, I just wanted to share that because it's a cool book, and he was just a really nice cat. I hope to get to meet him again sometime and maybe even do some work with him or something. I think he's a quite nice guy. Anyway, let's see. Is that everything I was going to show y'all picture wise? I think that's all the good stuff. One last one. And this is just really for just benefit, because it's something that this one here is something that comes through a lot more than I think people are aware of, and I probably don't emphasize it enough. Oh, there it is. Sorry. And this is how there's inherited trapped emotions. The ones you get from your ancestors, that stuff comes down through the bloodlines. And like I mentioned earlier, just like traumas from your past life come into this body, and they kind of join in the places where you I'm sorry, the trauma comes through down, and also the generational curses. So it's not just trapped emotions, that's curses, and also from other lives, you transfer them from one body to the other. So, you may have stuff that happened to you last life or 2-3 lifetimes ago, and you're storing it in your body now. It just transfers through. It's very interesting to me how that happens, but nonetheless, it is a problem. I think it's just, worth mentioning and showing this. Cool. Okay. Going down here, and I'll finish out as I see with everybody. Ona, God, I'm sorry, I'm so terrible with names, everybody. Ona Petgo, thank you for being here. Jim, thank you for being here. And by the way, everybody, and this is going not just from the people here, but I've been getting emails, some people, and even my personal life. I've started getting a lot of feedback about the work I've done with Jessica. And we've done a lot of it. We just completed, I think it was our 84th last remote viewing show. And if you go to the interviews or go to remote viewing with Jessica Jones on my playlist on my channel, all the ones that we've done together are on there, like all 84, 85 of them. We've done a ton of them on the interviews. Go to just the interviews, that interview playlist here. There's like 200 of them, or more than that, way more than that, maybe close to 3. I don't know. But the stuff I've done with her outside of that is on there, but that outside of the remote viewing. So I appreciate everybody being so appreciative of the work her and I have done. It's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of good work. I didn't think I was anybody I would even care to work with again after the other stuff that happened with me, some other individuals in these communities, these platforms. But it's been a really cool one. So I want to give everybody a thanks. What are protection practice examples is done daily? I had mentioned that earlier with the it's really about keying the imagination to and using creative visualization to trigger your intent of will. And that's done through, imagery, through visualization, creative visualization. And the way the brain really communicates with the soul and with the spirit is through imagery. And I don't think they really say that enough, thus imagination. So, all sorts of different techniques, but the technique is to get enough of your imagination in there to project your intent of will. Like when you've been in a room before where somebody walks in that doesn't like somebody else, and that person's like I don't want to use the word alpha personality, maybe that is the right word, but they're that strong personality, and it's so strong that you can feel their disdain from this other person, so much the other person gets up and leaves. That's the same intent of will, though, to get the dark off you. Do food issues as nothing seems appealing a way we might are getting hindered by entities? Yeah, that happens definitely. I mean, I'm far from Mr. Vegan, so I can't comment on that, but definitely liquor even more so. Liquor really leaves us open quite a bit. Our energy fields open, more than almost anything. And greed is not good either. After my father died, it took months for him or his energy to leave my home. Wonder if he felt need to hang around me for my healing. It's quite possible, and it's also possible too. Sometimes, Lorianne, they can't let go of the property either. I've encountered that. People saying, well, that's my house, and these other people are moving in, they're going to mess it all up. You know what I mean? So they're trying to get those people out. And a big sign of that in a haunted house, what I've experienced a lot, is plumbing problems. They have plumbing problems, that black goop coming up out of the pipes or out of the toilet. And then once the ghost or whatever is done doing that, they deal with liquids. They jump over in the garage and start messing with like your transmission and the fluids in your car. Okay, to cause you problems, financial problems, to get you out of that house. That's what that is often. But in the case of him, he probably was maybe trying to look out for you. Did you ask him not to leave? He might have tried to help you heal. He might have been worried about the house. And, I don't know what the amount of time is before, like what you saw in Ghost is when Patrick Swayze looked at the light and he goes, no, and he starts running back and dimming more. The light stayed on for a while, then it finally went off. So I don't know how long it is, but I think that right after we die, we go through the shock. And then we're giving a little bit of time to kind of wrap some things up, say some goodbyes, and then make the transition on through fully. But I've also seen a case where an individual, part of them transition, and there's another part still around that's kind of helping out during the funeral and looking and trying to help people and trying to make them feel better. And then that part left. So it wasn't earthbound, but it shows that we can be in two places at once, bilocated in some ways. So, but I know part of them it went through. It like wasn't all of them. And this was a good person. Everybody loved them. They were great. Um, Daryl Stanley, welcome. Thank you for coming by. Really cool, all the people coming. Thank you all for being here, even though I'm pronouncing half of y'all's names wrong. Joyce Hartman, thank you for coming. Question: if you go for the light when you pass away, is it true that you're going to go through reincarnation? Like I mentioned earlier, Anna, that is your choice. And every individual that I have dealt with in any of the three modalities of past life regressions I've done, every single one of them, it was their choice. Where they incarnate and how. I mentioned before that I had a situation where as an individual, this place of translation and reconfiguration, they had for them it was actually a ship, a type of a starship they're talking about that is observing universes outside the space-time continuum. And I know it is not just BS because I've seen another universe myself, and what I saw looked like broken shards of glass. Okay, and they described one or two of their universes looking like that. And when I asked, I said, well, they said, well, what are you going to do? I asked the questions, and they said, well, I've been to some of these universes, and I said, well, what about the one? Tell me about the one in the left. And they're like, which one in the left? I said, the one in the top left. And they go, oh, that one. They did, and they start describing a universe that almost sounded like Star Trek, like Star Trek Voyager, when it talks about species 8472, they're supposed to be from something called fluidic space. And there's been a great deal of debate is how fluidic is space. But this was a universe that was very fluidic. And the client described existing as these almost like these microorganisms, but they were like the size of like several planets. And they're all connected consciously through this fluidic space. And then they start saying, it's a very nice, it's a nice existence. It's go, but it's boring. I'm not going back there. Said, I'm going back to Earth to 19 such and such and such and such. I want to be around such and such. Yeah. And at this place of translation and reconfiguration I've talked about, that happens at the end of end of the death, the people will go there. They'll go there before they were born, okay, and then to the creator wherever before that. But that's just one of these places, all right, that I mentioned. And it seems like where was I going with that? I'm sorry. Every time, like they make the choice of where to incarnate and how, or if they even go back closer to source or whatever. But it's a lot of freedom there and a lot of choice. And it says a lot about what we're able to do as immortal souls where we're connected with the rest of ourselves. And you see that in hypnosis a lot when you connect people and you move the blocks and they have fully access to their to their superconscious. That's when the screen memories don't work anymore. And I've had organizations, whatever, throwing screen memories at me during regressions. They've come up a few times, but I know how to see them, how to get through them. All right, there's certain techniques you can use to just you can't trick the superconscious. Anyway, hopefully that helps with that. So yeah, so it's not always about reincarnation here on this earth. It's about reincarnating in the next container for consciousness that your soul chooses. You know what I mean? So far, and it's been a lot of times like I'll do one of these past life regressions, and it'll be one that's live between lives. So I will go back and go to the last life they had before this one, and it will be one that was not on Earth. They will describe somewhere completely different, species that are different all the way around, and that to me is just fascinating. Okay, a couple times I thought maybe it might have been Mars, but there are other times it's not anywhere we'd even understand. It's not the Pleiades. It's not the Arcturus. It's none of these places. It's somewhere way out, almost extragalactic or something. And all my contacts have been mostly extragalactic. So I think that's really valid, in saying that we choose where we wish to incarnate. And I've seen that several times again, and not everybody chooses to come back to Earth, But, oh, yeah, I know what I was going to say. Sorry. My apologies, folks. I'm getting tired. Yeah, I'm about to be done. But the place of translation and reconfiguration, in that place, the people always go through. First of all, the guide will just come, not because Barry tells you, "Hey, who's up there? Right? Daryl Stanley. Daryl Stanley, are you seeing your guide yet?" I mean, that's suggestive. That's not how it goes. If I do the process right, the guide just comes. Okay, and they take him to this place of translation and reconfiguration, and it can often be like an office or a library or something, or even I've had like a little pond or lake where they start going through the past life, panoramic life review, like that. Will open up one of the books and it's this life, and they'll start seeing all their choices and the intent behind them with the people they've dealt with their whole life, and it starts coming back like millionfold. That's where I think in the Bardo Thodol it says, you go first things, you go through the negative you put out. And some people are so negative, they put that stuff out, it scares them back into an incarnation here or lower than this or whatever. You know what I mean? That you've got the others that aren't horrible people. They've done loving things, always trying to help others. And then they go through that and get that comes back a millionfold and they get blissed out. And then they don't go any more, the volition to go towards the creator gets diminished because they're so blissed out by the love energy. And that goes back to what I was talking about, the fifth mansion world beings, fifth density beings, whatever, and also what the Bardo has said too. I think all that's connected in that way. So that's hopefully that helps a little bit. Oh, sorry. What's on the other side of this place of translation and reconfiguration, Anna, is there are other souls over there. And I've gotten different numbers. They always see them after they go through the panoramic life review. But I've gotten like numbers like 4, 3, 9, 12, 21, different numbers, And there'll be individuals that they have, the word I always get is agreement. And I've asked it only one time I've gotten contract. These are agreements they have with other souls to incarnate with them. And I'll take them through lifetimes, and they can pinpoint some of these souls in different bodies in different lives. Okay. And sometimes it's the people you have problems with. It's a trip to think that it's like, man, okay, you and I are blissed out right now. So I tell you, hey, Anna, I need you to really screw me over and stick it to me multiple lifetimes so I get it. And you're kind of like, hey, B, no problem, man, I got you. And then we go through these incarnations and things, or they incarnate as your mother, your father, but they're close to us in our different incarnations, wife and other things. And the one person that said, I have contract this individual, and I asked it, is it a contract? Are you being forced into it? And their facial changed immediately. Oh, no, it's not like that. I said, do you mean it's an agreement? Yeah, it's an agreement because we're agreeing. We don't have to do this. So choice is a lot. The creator had choice to make our existence, the choice to create the cosmos. So that's that. Hopefully that answers that question for you there. Great question, Anna. Oh, I thought it's still going. That's cool. I refuse to go through reincarnation. You're saying that now, but you didn't agree to that when you came here. I'm just being honest, okay? If you would have said you're not, at least this could be your first incarnation here, though. But that may be the only one. But either way, being here right now, you agreed to it. And I'll let you know when I find people that say no, they were forced here. Never seen it yet. But we're told this media-wise. What, because somebody remote viewed it? Did they experience it? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Anyway, but yeah, there's a lot more, to that. But you just got to make sure that your divine overself agrees with you that you're not going to come back here. You're saying that here now in this body because we experience certain things here, but then you get out of this body and you join with your true self. You may find that it's not what the other self is saying. That part of you, and it's weird because during the panoramic life review, we judge our own selves. It's not like God comes and judges us. It's a piece of us that is part of God. We're judging our own selves. I went through that when I died. I experienced that. And I can imagine it don't take much for it to be distasteful. I'm sure. But I tried to screw people over too much. Question: could some attachment be fractals of yourself trying to break through from your field? As what I'm talking about, earthbound spirits, no, they're other people. There are other spirits, other people that got trapped here. And this year, as far as attachment and others I've encountered, have been what I would consider demonic factions. Okay, dark, negative, inorganic beings that start giving thoughts to you, and then they start using that to manifest and get enough energy to manifest through your pineal gland, using our own pineal gland as a wormhole to start manifesting in the third dimensional world. And that's when they really start making your life miserable. So, not saying that can't happen, Ange, but not that I've encountered, okay? Because, people talk about things like fractals, this other stuff. And in reality, how often have you been fully 100% cognizant and cognitive aware like you are right now? Most of us are not when we sleep. We're not the same. You have the gifted dreamers that are. I'm not one of them. I'm like a gatherer, aka stalker. I have to gather enough free energy to get dream attention like you guys get naturally. I'm one of those people. I can do a lot of stuff here in the third dimension, but when I go to sleep, I had to really work at dream attention, try to see my hands, trying to communicate the commands from my conscious mind to my subconscious, superconscious mind. I had to work at it. You know what I mean? It's still not easy. So in that way, it's we say fractals though. How come we're not fully aware in any of those bodies like you are right now? That's an issue. So some things I think we have to put into where are we now present and how can we expand it out from there? You know what I mean? I hear things like fractals and alters and all that stuff. And I think when it goes to digital twins and all the neural programming going on, it starts getting really sticky. You know what I mean? Love is the God particle. Love has no boundaries. Very true. When dealing with something else, I'll throw at y'all, and this is dealing with UFOs, and I'll talk about this space propulsion. I keep a watch on what science is saying. At least I tried. I'm not a physicist or nothing. But, they're talking about what's called negative matter now, not antimatter, but negative matter, and how negative matter actually has negative mass. But when it comes to like gravity, it has a repulsive effect. So any energy against it will cause a repulsive effect as far as gravity, which when you start dealing with gravitational waves and some of these ships that can use gravitational waves, it really kind of changes things a little bit. So I would say that although they have not physically proven dark matter yet, like they have, or not dark matter, I'm sorry, negative matter like they have antimatter, I'm waiting for them to do so. I think that's going to show us a lot more about space propulsion, Alcubierre warp drive, and other ways of bending space time around a craft that's totally different when dealing with gravity and with this negative matter. So I advise everybody just to check that out. Google it, negative matter, see what they're saying. It's not proven yet, but with the way stuff goes, that I'm gonna say it for you, Jessica, CERN, who knows? That's an exotic particle that they may have proven and they're not telling us. So, hey, Feng Shui Susan, welcome. Thank you for being here. I try to share a little bit. It looks cool because it's internet. EMF from bad grounding electrical conduit can cause this as well. You know something, Abbott? I know, especially when it was Australia, they were even worse. The houses near electrical installations and those power stations, they have more hauntings there and more activity and more portals around that places than normal by far. I think that combined with everything that we know, wireless body area network, Y-band, along with these biosensors and semiconductors they have in us, oh, it takes it off the charts, man. Cryptoville, thanks for coming. I didn't see you in here. Thanks for being here. Ooh. Boy, you guys get a real good one going there. You don't need me. Boy, great chats. Truth Seeker, good comment. Knowledge is power. True that. um, Abbott Hoffman, 407. Do you think we choose our incarnate parents? You know, I have seen yes. I have seen yes in several different ways. Even to a point I have had a client, they're starting to get pretty well known. They're super cool. But they had in their last lifetime, before they went to the places of translation and reconfiguration, they were seeing on this view screen, they were choosing their earth parents. Okay, and so I'm gonna incarnate with these people, yada yada yada. And then what's crazy though is by the time they had incarnated and went through that field of energy that we incarnate here to the dark side of the moon, all that, they had already starting manipulating the individual's parents and controlling them so that they would be able to control them when they incarnated. So they were able to trace where this individual was going to incarnate. And I think it's the Artron energy thing again. How far out and how far back can they trace it? The Artron energy, again, that's something I stole from Doctor Who, but it's the term that was used when people travel in the TARDIS, because the Time Lords use this Artron energy. That's what runs the TARDIS, and they used to go through these Makos, these black holes. And it irradiates the cells with this energy that they can detect, and they'll detect it on people, and they try to track the people to show who the companions are that the doctor might show back up. All right. So, but it's the same thing with us as contactees, lifetime, bloodlines, and things. They track us when we come in here and we incarnate, or just before we get here. They're able to do it somehow enough that they affect the people that someone's going to incarnate with. So I know they can track that much at least. Hope that helps. Seems like we're not as touchable until we actually get in these bodies, though. Then it's like they got free reign of us. You know what I mean? Not free reign, but free assaultive ability. Tool time. No, Archon, not Archon, Artron energy. Artron. And it's just a term I stole from Doctor Who, actually. But I think it really talks about the energy that I feel in other contactees, and I can feel it on other people a lot. You know, and it's interesting, like I said, it's the people that say they're not contactees, a lot of times they have it. And I'll help them. We'll go through some things that they might have seen that UFO, like I mentioned earlier, nobody else saw. And then 2 or 3 days later, even a week later, they're having these weird dreams. Like they're in some sort of weird building, or weird people there, or weird creatures and stuff like that. But they never put it together that, hey, that was something that from that ship I saw out there, because there's a time lag delay. So hopefully that helps too, or not. ARTRO on energy. If you go to the playlist on this channel and UFO technologies, I believe there's a video I did over it. It's got a picture of Rose from Doctor Who, the golden light coming out of her eyes. Oh, thanks for the explanation. I already got it. Sorry, Tubernon, I'm so far behind on this. I thought that was current. Argon. 414. No, that I was talking was orgone energy. Orgone from that's based on Wilhelm Reich. I used to do a little look at it, looked at his research, and also Trevor Constable. But that's orgone, Orgone, and it's a big deal now. They make orgonite and all that stuff. But I'll tell you, back in the 90s, only Borderline Sciences was into it. Early 90s, late 80s. But that's orgone, life energy. It's the same as prana or chi. And the other one I was talking about is Artron, Artron, for the energy that comes out of the Makos, the black holes that irradiates us when we're on board those craft. It gets us in our cells, and I believe that's what I can detect on other people. But it makes it weird. So, like, what if I meet somebody that's supposed to have all this contact experiences, and the stuff they say is just, man, it's way out there. And I meet them And man, they ain't got a damn lick of Artron energy on them. What does that mean? It leads me to question. Like, for example, when I met, since this is my channel, I can say the name. I don't care what anybody thinks. Corey Good. I personally didn't have any problem with him. Like I say, he taught me to death a little bit. Never seen him again later. After, probably never will again. Did a good video, but he's talking me to death, you know. But excuse me, the first thing when that punk Australian is walking me to meet him, acting like he's swinging from the dude's nuts. I asked him, I said, man, are you swinging? What do you mean, bro? I said, when you swinging from his balls, you sound like that, like a punk. Anyway, when we get there, I meet him and he wants to run over and hug me, all right? And look, if you're a beautiful woman, I'll give you a hug, but I'm not really the huggy type, unless you're a beautiful woman. I'm just not into hugging men. And I, you know, but I let him go ahead and give me this hug because I knew I'd get a read on him, a good one. And the first thing is, I feel Artron energy coming off of him. It's pretty strong. So whatever it is, whether the individual was lying or not, and all the bureaucracy that surrounds him, I had to isolate first. He feels like a contactee. He's either been on board a craft or he's been around beings that have the higher, almost Kundalini energy that emits off them, okay, in their biofield. So that's the first thing I just had to deal with. And, you know, he looks at me, he gives his hug, he looks at me, he goes, hey, man, we hosted that other conference, right? I looked at him, I said, no. He looks at me, he looks all puzzled. He's like, are you sure? I said, yeah, I'm sure, man. At that point, I did like probably 6 or 7 of those things, and he was not at any of them. And then that punk Australian's telling me later, he's, man, oh, Corey says he's seen you before on ships, and it's like a high council ship or something. I just looked at him, okay. But there was an interesting, you know, deal. But the point is he had that energy coming off of him. There's a couple others that I've met that are important people, and they had none. But they have big claims. But I'm keeping my mouth shut, all right? Because it's not about, like I said, right or wrong, but I think we have to be very discerning of where we get our information. It doesn't matter what Barry Littleton says. I may be as full of shit as the rest of them, so it doesn't matter. But it's more about what of the information can you use to change your daily life. If you do a session with me, what about the session changes your daily life? It's not about seeing if somebody's psychic or medium or not. It's about what happens that helps you, helps your life. That's what's important. Anyway, sorry, I don't mean to preach, folks. I make too many mistakes to preach. So, in fact, I screw up all the damn time. Hey, Barry, I wouldn't take it too personally, Barry, because it doesn't mean that he's right. Correction. I'd assume, Truth Seeker, you're taking about Corey Brown or Courtney Brown. It's not about taking it personally. I don't give a damn what he says because it's bullshit. It's wrong, man, what he's telling people. And it definitely doesn't mean he's right, but it's disinformation, Truth Seeker, that can get people trapped here and get people hurt. Okay. And if he's going to give that, he needs to give something that's going to help people. So it's not about me taking it personally. It's about me standing against bullshit information. I better quit cussing, excuse me. BS information. That's all it is, you know. So yeah, but no, he's definitely not right. And to be honest, too, doesn't mean that I'm right about everything, but I can only tell you what I've experienced so far. And it doesn't conform to what these people are talking about. And don't worry, when it does happen, I encounter it, I'm gonna let everybody know. Hey, I ran into one of these soul traps. I'll let everybody know, you know, but so far it's not been like what they're saying. And believe me, I'm the guy, again, I had to change my opinions, okay? Because look, everybody, I was always convinced that this is a prison planet full of lost souls caught in a reincarnation cycle. That's what I always thought based on just the horrible things I see here going on. All right. And once I started really doing the work, that didn't hold up. And believe me, I was trying to look for it, to trying to prove that. But it keeps coming out again and again. We have this choice, and it's a school. And it's a school of hard knocks. And the more that you don't pass the right tests, your own self sends you back. It's not anybody else. It's your own self. You make this choice to come back or go somewhere else where you learn what you need to learn. It doesn't have to be Earth. I've encountered that many times. People go somewhere else or have come from somewhere else. So I don't want everybody to think that we're just confined in that way. This the soul. I mean, somebody talking about you have these souls that are just incarnated to be on Earth only, and they only evolve within the Earth matrix. You know, that could be true, but that's an agreement of some type. I've not encountered that either, but it's an agreement of some type. But you learn certain things here. You go on to other. There's so many different containers for consciousness. You know what I mean? It's kind of weird. Psychic vampires, yes, they're around. I'm good with my life memories. Right on. Me too. I like my life memories too, and I certainly don't want to lose them. I like who I am. At Ono Pedigo, Admiral Akbar, his famous shot, "It's a trap." No, the light's not definitely, but you know, when talking about Admiral Akbar, you might want to go back and look on the channel here in a live I did a few weeks ago called Mana and Contact, and check out Mana. Mana has similarities to Dr. Professor Admiral Akbar in terms of species wise. That's what that being told me anyway. Said learn more about Dr. Akbar's species and you'll learn more about mine. Charlatans making Buck Rogers. Are you guys talking about the new Buck Rogers that's coming out? Sorry, I just saw that now a little while ago. I don't know who's playing or anything, but I gotta admit, y'all, I'm a Gil Gerard fan still. I'm a fan of Tweaky and William Deering and all that stuff. I still like that one. I used to like the ones with Buster Crabbe too, but the one with Gil Gerard was my favorite. And since I got to meet that guy about 5 years ago at the Comic-Con, he talked me to death. He's talking about eating chicken feet. Says the best delicacy he's ever had. And I was talking to Little Robot too, and then he died not long after that in real life. But it was pretty cool. And Flash Gordon too. He talked me down too. That was really cool. He kind of neck me. He's like, "Hey man, how you doing?" Well, I'm all right. Flash. I was looking at. I was kind of tripped out because he's pretty good size. I put Sam J. Jones about 6'4". And yeah, we was talking. I was trying to get a picture of him. You're not supposed to do that. But I was trying to get a picture. He was shaking this, and nobody was around. Had my phone kind of down like that. He's shaking this water or something. He goes, "Damn!" And he walks over and throws in the trash right by me. And I put my phone kind of to the side, and I'm just standing there. And he kind of throws this thing around. He stands right there, right next to me. He kind of nudges me like that. "Hey man, how you doing?" I'm like, "Damn man, I'm all right, Flash." I was kind of tripping, and he went over to say, "Come on over here." And I went over and I talked to him, sitting there talking to him. It was just kind of a tripping. He looked a lot better than he looked on Ted. His hair is brown, but it's all swooped up. He looked like a movie cat. When I met Lou Ferrigno, he looked like a movie dude too. I mean, it was interesting. Lou Ferrigno's not as tall as I thought he would be. I was a little disappointed. Look, I'm 5'11", almost 6 feet, but where I come from, I have brothers that are 6'6.5" and 6'5". I come from like the land of the giants. So I was expecting Lou Ferrigno to be like around their height, and he wasn't. Or I met basketball players. I got some friends that are 7 feet, and he's nowhere near that size. He's like my dad's height, which is about 6'3", 6'4", 6'3.5". I was a little disappointed in that, but he looked. I'll say this: he looked much more Italian in person than he did as the Hulk for sure. It was pretty cool, but I wasn't going to pay all that money for a picture with him. And the last one a few weeks ago, it was somebody walks by and says hello to me. It was a Fall Guy lady, Heather Thomas. I went there. I forgot she was going to be there. I want to get a look at who was it? Dirk Benedict. He was there. And I think Sergeant Slaughter, that big old jawbone. Anyway, sorry. Candy Zippy, what's happening? Hey, thank you for coming over. I appreciate that. Thank you for watching the shows with Jessica, too. Tamara, what's up? You still here? Thank you. So thank you for everybody sticking in here. Sweet Pea, 1776, welcome. You never alerted to my lives. Hey, check it out. Maybe go back again and type the button, but press the bell again. Sometimes people are getting disconnected from the bell. They're still subscribed, but they got to ring the bell again to get the notifications. I think it's some of that shadow banning I went through. My channel's never really recovered from that, but I don't care. I'm going forward. The people that are supposed to hear will be here. Who's that? Ricky? Oh, Ricky Russell. What's up? Jay Smith. What's up? Angie, what's happening, Sweet Pea? Oh, Sweet Pea, son. I thought Betty and Barty were one of the first that spoke about being abducted, right? There were some of the early ones, at least the real good ones, as far as I don't remember anybody else that got a star map or anything like Betty did. And who were the people that were just before her? There was a lady that I mentioned on Jessica's show. She did a regression with Dr. Leo Sprinkle, and she saw the cow being mutilated inside the craft. Her name was Joanna. Oh, I'm sorry, folks. I thought I wrote it down. I'll find it. I want to say not Joanne Potter or I can't remember. It's I thought I wrote down her name. I'm really sorry, everybody, because I said I was going to get that. I mentioned it twice, and I thought I wrote her name down, but I didn't. Anyway, just she goes pretty far back. And who was the other person that was right around their time? And somebody else that Leo Sprinkle worked with, and maybe John Mack. Sorry, but Eddie, for me, Betty and Barney was a big deal because I couldn't find another contactee / abductee. I'm not an abductee that looked like me. He was the first one. I'd love to talk to you sometime when I get out of this funk. Lisa Smith. I don't know if you're meaning me or somebody in chat, but it's me. Please email me at bradlewilson13@gmail.com. I'd be happy to talk with you. And sometimes those funks, they can come from a negative identity, you know? They trigger and they drain us, and so are earthbound spirits too. Anybody else having trouble with their eyes lately? That's interesting. Uh-oh. Oh, wow. Okay. Oh, God, I'm still not there. That's great. Jim, what's happening? Sorry, I didn't see you were in here either. Wow. Farting dust? I don't know. I don't want none of that. Beans are bad enough. I don't want no farting dust. What a group, man. Y'all are a trip. Hijack souls. Oh, goodness. Okay. You know, I like to see any proof of this hijacking of souls. I like to see how it's done. I like to see the technology that's done. And I like to hear everything that happens on the other side, how that happens on the other side. And more specifically, very specifically, how is the superconscious divine overself hijacked? How is it done? I sure ain't never seen it, but I hear all this propaganda. And then we start getting into stuff that is also this neuroprogramming, okay? And people being neuroprogramming, and the fact that we have dream engineered, targeted dream incubation, meaning that they're literally turning engineered dreams into memories and those memories into reality. A lot of what we're hearing is not valid. It's a serious problem. Look into dream engineering seriously. And how many of these people are dealing with that opposed to the natural incarnation cycle they came here and leave out of? That what they're talking about there, these hijacked souls, is not common. It's something that is common now in these groups, these SSP groups. That's real common now. Okay? How come this stuff wasn't being talked about when you start going back to the Vegas and back to these older scripts? How come they're not talking about this stuff? See, this is a new thing. There's a reason for this. I'm telling you, be very aware where you get your information. And when I died, I didn't experience none of that. Period. No hijacking of my soul, nothing trying, no technology trying to suck me over here. There was none of that at all. Okay, there was a question of, was I going to come back to this body and complete the work I need to do, or was I going to go on? Okay, that was the real question. You know, and I had somebody like my brother praying, saying, he said, man, I could feel you. You were like about to leave. And I kept asking, B, don't leave, man. Don't leave. He said, but you were like kind of out there. He said, I saw your body laying there, but you wasn't in it. He said, it was very disturbing, bro. He started crying on me, you know. That's my 12-year senior, you know, and that's somebody, you know, so it's things like that that we have to be very aware of. Listening to this stuff. I mean, it's cool. Maybe those people experience it. I can't put their experiences down, but I can tell you this, it is not the norm by any stretch, or I would have encountered it by now many times, you know, more than just a one-off. It should have come through it many times, especially when I'm kind of searching for it, not seeing it. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but it's not that common. And several hundred, not common. Anyway, sorry. Oh, Jessica, you back? Neptune, the blue beams. You know, when it comes to being taken into craft with blue beams, please go back and go under this channel, UFO Technologies. Look at two videos I've done over they're called UFO stasis fields. And I was asking people what color was the color that brought them into the craft. Okay. For me, it starts off as a golden light that starts bringing me in, that it turns to a blue one just before I get in. And then there's this blue beam inside that first room. And I had wondered, they're giving me information. I'm getting like plutonium, uranium, and some different, and magnesium and things like that was making this blue component in there. And it took me into something called PUK3, which is decayed plutonium that's activated by water. And I was curious if that had something to do, the uranium and plutonium had something to do with the blue light was actually also a sterilization light. And I wanted to know the information for that based on when talking to contactees of different cultures and different races. It was often stated by some Caucasian people that I know that said that the purple light they got taken in was a UV light that was a disinfectant. And, you know, so therefore you don't have something like the bio agents that get them on board the craft, like what happened in War of the Worlds. So I wanted to know how many people had a purple light or a blue light, or for me, I want to know there was a blue light, possibly disinfection also. Just wanted to know, you know what I mean? I found that some of the things that we hear didn't hold up against the statistics when I started having people talk to me about it. So it's just good information for thought, or food for thought, you know. Tanya, what's up, Tanya? Tanya, sorry, my fault. So I didn't know you were here at 4:59. I'm almost caught up. You discussed answer my question. Skip me. Demons using pineal. That's why Viral and Morgellons have an eye in common. Parasites and pupil navigating to the pineal. Ooh, boy. That Morgellons is, ooh, and Morgellons in the eye. That must be terrible. Good Lord. Oh, and I don't know. I was so far, Tanya was so far on questions. I kind of suck at that, but I'm trying to stay caught up. So sorry if I missed that up. Golly. Yeah, you know, Tanya, that self-assembling technology they have now, nanotechnology, with those biosensors and those semiconductors and those new implants. Look at those implants like Intel, and people are making like $1 million implants or something. It's like, good Lord. So, you know, that type of fiber optics and fiber nano, fiber pico. Oh, God. And the fact they can just activate that stuff in any of us. Bubba, what's happening? That was the ship, the Temple of Phasia, which is because the ship is not, the outside and inside of the ship are not in the same dimension. So for the inside dimension, that is partially enough for me to be there physically, and enough for some of these beings to be partially manifested, some and fully manifested, was not congruent for my physical body. You know what I mean? So it was that temporal aphasia was the sickness because of that different and dimensional sync. You know what I'm saying? And the fact that they're in your mind telepathically, giving you tons of images and thought forms, it kind of blows you away. That's too far fetched. And one of the pics you put up look exactly like the ship I'd experience. I don't know what's too far fetched, but not much I say is far fetched, friend. It's stuff I experience, especially concerning craft. I don't say nothing far fetched. And I would question you to disprove anything I say scientifically. Come with it hard. I'm not kidding around. I've been dealing with this stuff my whole life, man. It's not something I just suddenly come into. So I don't give a damn if you think it's far fetched or not. What I'm talking about is real. What I've experienced. I'm sorry you have not, but don't come at me like that. I'm not gonna play those games. Anyway, that's it for I'm down there with everybody. Um, Discernment, thank you. Intermystic 144, thank you for coming here too. Netted Plant Goddess, thank you for being here. Thank you everybody for being here. Hopefully that helps out a little. This was not like a full workshop like I did over Earthbounds, but it's just important things everybody should know so that it goes complete with helping this planet. And we have these layers of everything here. All right. You've got the demonic, you've got the earthbounds, you've got these different layers of crap here. And earthbounds is one of the layers we need to deal with. And I think it's serious and super important because it's people like you and me that didn't cross over, or people like grandma and grandpa didn't cross over, whether it's, addiction, house, loved ones, trauma, whatever it is, they didn't cross over. And it's easy. It happens a lot easier than you think because we do have free will. And that light comes, you don't have to go in it. You can just stay here. I've had a lot of them tell me that, well, I just want to stay here and try to live again. We'll try to live here without a body so they live through other people. It's just a problem, okay? That's because not every culture deals with death appropriately. And that's something I think the transition whole deal needs to change in our society. We shouldn't be so afraid as we are and, live not in fear like that. Anyway, thank you all for coming. Please continue to comment and the other thing afterwards. It went longer than I wanted by all means. So much for my 90 minutes. But hey, appreciate you all being here for all the comments. I'm sorry if I offended some people with my viewpoints because I don't resonate with a lot of stuff. I mean, decades before coming forward, I quickly realized that the entire contactee phenomenon was nothing like what I was reading, nothing like what I was experiencing, very few commonalities. That to me is disturbing, okay? And now as things go further and we're getting these more elaborate fantasy type of schemes going on and fantasy deployment, all right, it's getting worse. It's getting worse and trying to use discernment to find out what resonates and what doesn't, what helps and what doesn't. What is just stuff that's misleading us and doing nothing for the real contact scenario? What is the stuff that can't be backed up scientifically and proven at all? It's just fantasy stuff. And right now we're getting to a point, people are making enough claims, bring something to it, some sort of reality. I have now talked to 200 people that are either super soldiers or something like that. We got to go forward with it now. You know what I mean? Or the next step, which is these people start getting tested and claiming their neurocognitive rights, so that these corporations, these organizations stop experimenting on people, activating that nanotech that we all got in our bodies, whether it's through food, through nanodust, through chemtrails, whatever the method of delivery, it's still delivered. And they could activate it in all of us and screw us up at any time that has that. That's all going to end in court under neurocognitive law. So anybody that is having those experiences, get your grip together and visit Mind Nexus and get one of those non-linear junction detection scans where you can see what your body is emitting, see where it's coming from, see how that might be affecting the experiences you think you're having. Are you in a hive mind? Are you in a mind-to-mind, brain-to-brain interface? Are you in a brain simulation interface? Are you suffering from dream engineered targeted dream incubation? You all take care. Much love to you. Thank you all for being here. And I'll come back sometime in the distant future, maybe the year 2036 with John Teeter. No, I'm just kidding. I'll see y'all later. Thank you very much for being here. Much peace and love. Sorry for those of you that are a bit offended, but I'm not here to be liked, okay? And I'm not here to promote stuff that I think is BS. So I got to stick with that and stay somewhat real. Doesn't mean I'm anybody, but I have an opinion like everybody else. So anyway, take care, everybody. Peace.